Shut up, fool!
Hey, man! This makes sense!
You can't help but smile like a little bitch.
Actual footage of alias fake name dancing that he's here first. 10,000 pine points to you. You're the best. I don't know why you use an alias and a fake name, given that you're so great. You should want people to know who you really are, because who you really are is precious in my sight. Jack Russell, 5,000 pine points to you. 10,000 alias. 1,000 to Danny. You just barely made it. No, you're not close to first. You're not as good as Alias and Jack, Danny. Just admit it. Waffles? Oh, you know, Waffles, I was thinking about you the other day, thinking about hiring you to join the team. But if you're a loser, I can't hire losers. So you're out. You're fired. Well, I haven't hired you, but you're fired before I hired you. I'm thinking we need a revival. We need a religious revival in both Christianity, Islam, other religions, because you guys are dying out. I mean, mass exodus of Christians, even Muslims, you know, Muslims who have experienced the precious taste of the West are falling by the wayside. And Christians, you're plummeting. You need a revival, and I'm here to help. So I will assist you in having tested conditions so you can demonstrate to the satisfaction of most watching. I think it'd be good. You need a pick-me-up. I'm the caffeine to your coffee, your religious coffee. Let me help you. Now you can do the praying and the Jesus name stuff, and I'll just sit on the sidelines, make sure everything's, you know, tested, demonstrated, and so forth. I mean, like, you really got to get people excited that what you believe is true. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You know, like, they're waning. They're becoming tired. When I say people, I mean like Christians and Muslims. It's like you realize that nothing's working, and your kids are still doubting. But we got all this evidence, you say, and yet they're still not buying it. What's going on? You need a revival. You need to do something amazing. You know you need this. Welcome if you're new here. This is Theist Thursday. The room is open already, and the way you get in here is very, very complicated. Most people can't do it. So only the smart theists will be able to get in, because what you have to do is you'll have to click on a link that I will pin. And for theists, this is difficult. Like, you got to take your mouse or your finger, and you got to move up and to the right and then tap it. It's like the coordination needed is unbelievable. But if you seek hard enough, you shall find me. If you knock on my door, I will open. Unless you're a crazy person. Read your super chat. I didn't even see a super chat. Oh, there's a super chat. Lost 50 pounds. Joshua, don't go out into those Canadian windstorms. You're going to fall over. Excellent. See, this is how I build bridges. I tell fat Christians how to become thin. I too can do that for you. If you're fat, you know you're sinning. And Joshua is on the path. He's a good Catholic boy. Well, I don't know about good, but he's a Catholic boy. He's on the path to making his bodily vessel a proper servant for the Lord. And you too, you Christians and Muslims listening who are a little overweight, let the atheists help you. Let us help you enjoy the fast. I haven't eaten since yesterday at 7:30 a.m. But I'm not cranky. No, I'm not. I'm not irritable. I'm doing just fine. Promise. I've been busy. I've been doing other things. What am I falling behind in? So if you tag me and let me know in the realm of religion, apologetics, what do I need to know? I saw this. This is about the justice of God. I mean, the justice of God is not justice. At least not in this version of Christianity, and I'll explain why. Oh boy, Doug Dillahunty. Cameron, don't offend me. You know I'm dead inside, but I still have a little spark here and there. So I am human still, and you can hurt my feelings by calling me Doug Dillahunty. Although Doug Dillahunty sounds better than Matt Dillahunty. The double D's. I'm a double D. Will you accept Islam? No, I will not accept Islam because Islam is false. Unless you can demonstrate it to me to be true. Can you? Let me give you a hint. Old texts don't cut it for me. And you know what? Don't cut it for most people. Unless you were indoctrinated in it from a very young age, then you view the scriptures as something special. You got to stop that. Like this person here, her name is alisachilders. She views it as special. There's something about it. You gotta, no, if you value truth, you don't hate it, but you don't love it either. You just say that this is probably just a book written by people. And to overcome that and say a deity has something to do with it, oh my, you need evidence for that. That's a big claim. Jordan Peterson trying to rally Abrahamic faiths against secularism. Oh, is that new? Oh, that's not really new, is it? But you know why Jordan Peterson does that? He does that because he's scared. He's scared that people like you, B.S. Lewis, that you're going to fall into chicanery and debauchery. And you probably already are, right? You seem like look at your name, B.S. Lewis. You're mocking C.S. Lewis. And I can just tell by your avatar that you love chicanery. You debaucherize at least once a week. If you were tax exempt, you would be a believer too. I don't think so. PineCreek, you blocked me. Who are you? Bartholomew. Oh, by all the emojis. Are you Peter coming in as someone else? If I blocked you the first time, then I'm going to block you the second time. Let's see. Hide user on this channel. Yeah. Hey, I'm not cranky because I haven't eaten in over 24 hours. But you're gone. Isn't that fun? Because I'm sure Myron gave me a good reason to block you the first time. So let's see how many accounts Bartholomew will now make. PineCreek, if you married Matt, would you take his last name or would he take yours? I think we should just keep our own names. I'm so progressive in that way. I mean, I'm so progressive. I think everybody should just keep their mother's maiden name. Is that wrong what I just did? I made a PineCreek Kenny video. You did? Can I look for it? Can post the link. Even if it doesn't show for everybody, it might show for me. Post the link there, Flying Man. You got skills, Flying Man. Well, besides flying, you got skills with your video making. PineCreek, you are a hard man, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered. That makes me a thief. Right? If I reap where I've not sown and gathered. But I ain't no thief. I work for my money. Yeah, I'm hungry for the truth. That's the only food I need, Guzman. The food I need to quench my hunger, to satisfy my thirst, is truth. I want a big plate of truth, drizzled with raspberry sauce. Who's going to present it to me today? And click on the link. Isn't Peter the one who made the comment about my sister and suffering? No, that was Jim Bob. That was a douche thing to say. Well, at least God let her live a few years without the drugs. Can you pray for my swift recovery? Fell off some steps today and cracked my pelvis and 3 ribs. Not good at 67. Please don't make me laugh tonight. Okay, everyone, let's say a prayer for Jack Russell. Allah? No. Allah doesn't do much. Jesus, we pray for Jack Russell Terrier that you will heal his ribs in Jesus' name. Now, it's all about the pain, so just make the pain go away. Don't actually fix the cracks. I am Walter. You said to your minions to leave me alone, liar. Oh, yeah, let's ban him too. John Christ Apostle, you're gone. This is ban week. You can't come into my house and call me a liar. Well, you can, but you got to reap the consequences. Doug stole my pen at the office the other day. I don't think so. I never leave the house. Well, actually, tonight I am. Hey, Doug, been a while, looking for some interesting conversations. Have you talked to me before? You don't look familiar. The room's open. Oh, you hear that? Let's see who it is. If it's Peter, I'm going to throw up. Oh, good. It's not Peter. Hey, it's Diego. I remember you.
Dak, how are you doing?
Good. I remember you.
Yeah, I'm sorry my webcam is not working as properly as it should be.
Yeah, you look like you want to hide your identity. Did you commit?
No, I told you that my laptop get as much, but I have.
That's better right now. What you just did is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to just keep it clean.
I don't actually use.
Do you have a job?
Yeah, I work from home.
What do you do?
I'm a civil engineer.
Okay, you can afford a new camera.
I don't use the camera, so that's why I don't have a use for.
Well, how do you talk to your long distance girlfriend then?
I am married. I told you. Last
I know
time.
you're married, but your girlfriend, how do you talk to her?
I don't have a long.
Oh, you just have a wife. That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
You're a good
That's
Christian boy. I appreciate that. Same with me. I used to have 3 wives, but I'm down to 1.
That's awesome. You know, we talked last time, and I actually was something like a deist.
You were?
I'm no longer
Past
a
tense?
Yeah. I actually not sure how to answer this question. I know that you have said that you feel like you can say that with the same certainty as if you drop a pen.
Yeah.
You are sure that there's no God.
Right.
Yeah. that's reasonable. And are you actually willing to change your mind if something is
Oh
presented
yeah,
to you,
I'm a
right?
very open and reasonable person. You know me. All you have to do is demonstrate
Yeah,
it.
but we actually know we can know. So maybe that assertion is too much for me right now.
Okay. What? So you're even harder of an atheist than me? Is that what you're saying?
No, a less degree,
Oh,
agnostic atheist.
you're an agnostic atheist. Okay. Well,
That's
whatever.
what
We don't. What did you call in to ask or say?
Yeah, sure, sure. I actually have some interesting conversation with my fellow Christian friends,
Good.
but what worries about this thing of atheists is like if you don't find something to replace the God belief, I think it can be catastrophic to the lives of some people. Have you ever experienced something like that in any of the cases that you have done?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but usually people find replacements, and I don't think it's my responsibility to find it for them. Um, my replacements have been focusing on family, poker, um, just enjoying life. For other
Yeah,
atheists, this is what I don't like. I see a lot of atheists finding community and activism, and that doesn't mean it's necessarily bad, but it's almost becomes their religion.
yeah, I do understand that. That's what I was going to ask you. I was never anything in these philosophical arguments and anything of that. Just because someone asked me, the first question is why? How are you sure that what you believe is right? So I used that started my journey to the truth. And for what I understand, there's not much evidence to say that Christianity is true or any religion really. However, what they told me, and I actually agree, is that I didn't know about nihilists. I'm not sure if that's the word in English.
Naturalist,
Nihilist.
yeah.
No. Philosophical nihilist.
Nihilist.
Nihilist. That's right. I'm sorry.
That's right.
In Spanish is nihilismo, but that if there's no God, nothing has any sense. So
That's
that's
what these Christians are
interesting to
telling
know.
you?
Yeah, sure, but that's
Just go like this when they
an
say that.
interest.
Go, just like put your thumb on your nose and just smile and agree with them. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, for me, it's as I was not never 100% committed to the religion, but for someone that lives, maybe can be uh, really hard to find a replacement. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Yeah, I
And
agree. It can be.
do you feel that people should stay in the religion? I mean, I respect because I don't have respect on the intellectual level for God, but I talked to some friends and they told me that if there's no God, why they are stopping for killing and doing bad things? I'm not sure if you're getting the
Yeah,
idea.
I hear that all the time. I would say the majority of them are just saying that as an excuse
Yeah,
to stay in the religion. I think the people who even come out and say, I would commit suicide if Christianity is wrong or Islam's wrong, or I would rape and kill, and
yeah,
I I would say I don't believe you.
yeah. That's a good one
I don't think you would.
because
Now some might, and you got to like feel that out. If they have a history of violence, then maybe. But most people are not murderers. They're not rapists.
yeah.
Like it's like what, probably under 1%.
I understand, especially in the cases where they say that the God has given you a new meaning on the life. They were on drugs, they were on crime, and that's what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah,
For so that people is really hard, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay,
Have a great day.
take care, Diego.
Same to you. Bye bye.
I just blocked my the third account. The same guy. Only one wife? How can you enter the celestial Mormon kingdom? Well, I don't want to live forever. Hillary's emails. Okay, I wanted to play this about the justice of God.
anger for that.
Absolutely.
I want justice for that. I mean, those same people that are crying for justice for other things, they don't want God to be just, which is just a head scratcher for me. I don't.
No. So Alyssa was saying that, don't you feel wrath when you see sin like molestation of a child? Now, I wouldn't call that sin because I'm an atheist, but I'd say, yeah, I get very angry if I hear about that. And if I can imagine that happening to my own children, I would be full of rage. In fact, someone would probably have to restrain me from doing very bad things to whoever did that to my son or daughter. And I think that's normal. We evolve this way. But the problem with the justice of God is, in this version of Christianity, you can have a rapist who goes to heaven, and the person who he or she raped goes to hell based on believing certain propositions or not. JJ. Hey, there's two of me.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, JJ. Can you hear me?
I don't know why it added me as JJ. My name is Fro. We talked before. I was a Muslim.
Oh, yeah. You're the guy who did that Islamic Quran test with me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember you. And the last time we talked, you were doubting Islam, but you kind of still were a Muslim.
Yeah. And I'm turned total atheist. Don't read the Quran.
You're an atheist now.
Don't. Yeah, I would proclaim that. Yeah.
Okay, so what did you? The previous caller said was concerned about guys like you. What did you replace Islam with? Chicanery and debauchery. Have you killed anybody yet? Have you raped anyone yet?
Yeah, no, I haven't. I haven't raped anyone. I haven't killed anyone. Yeah, no, I've just replaced it with good conversations.
That's enough. That does it for you.
Yeah, I don't miss the spiritual side of my religion. Funny enough.
Huh. Well, but the problem is
there are things that I miss. I am not going to lie, but I think I can replace it with other things.
But how do you go through life now that you're an atheist and you got no grounding for morality and objective truth, and you're just
I don't work.
When I think of you, I think of a willow tree. Just you're just whatever the wind does, you do, right?
I just stopped worrying about it, and it also helped a lot of not hanging around a lot of people that were in Islam. Stop talking to people in that group. I think that made me more confused than actually.
See, that's the problem. That's why you left Islam, is because you got out of that bubble. And
yes.
But as an atheist, I would encourage you to get back into that bubble.
Why?
Oh, because it's fun. Maybe that's my replacement. I get hope, meaning, and purpose from getting back into the Christian bubble and inviting Christians on here and talking to them, because I know how they think, at least certain versions of Christianity, and it's fun. I know what they're going to say before they say it.
Yeah, I guess this is what I really wanted to talk to you about how you replace. I guess the replacement of some of the things that I still do. So one of the things that I still do is praying, and I guess I find it a little annoying because I pray to someone I don't really believe in.
Well, that's just a habit. Like, I understand.
Yes.
When I left Christianity, I did the same thing. Like, you put your head in the pillow, and now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die, As a child, that was
Mhm.
drilled into me, and so that's just habit forming. You'll kick that habit in 6 months.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I kind of was a little concerned that I just think that I was a little concerned that I would try to keep it longer in my life. It feels like
You're scared of
that
relapsing
was
into Islam.
yes.
Yeah. Well, whenever you feel that way, that you're relapsing or you desire Islam, I want you to go to your fridge, and if you have a beer, go ahead and drink it. Sit down, sit down in your chair, and watch football
Football.
or whatever sport you like.
Yeah, yeah. England beat us in women's soccer this week.
But don't worry,
And it
Fro.
was 8-0.
Don't worry, because you will not relapse. And here's how I know you won't go back to Islam or any religion for that matter. Is because in Christianity, there's something called Christmas, and at Christmas time, people give presents. And when you're a kid, what the parents do is they buy the presents, they wrap them up, and they hide them in the closet, and then they tell the kids Santa Claus is going to give them. But you are the kid who snuck into the closet and saw the truth that your parents put the presents in the closet. And once you see that, you cannot forget it. So I'm proud to say that you will die an atheist.
I hope so. I kind of what I also find maybe a little annoying is that I have some sentiment to I want to read the material, but I don't know if it's bad or if
No.
it's
That's
good
good.
to
It's good. Like I
yeah.
still read the Bible almost every day, and I get sentimental and even shivers up my spine to a good hymn. That's fine. That's part of the cultural aspect of the religion.
Mm.
Like people get sentimental about Harry Potter and Star Wars. Yeah. And you don't believe Darth Vader's real, so it's okay.
Yeah. I think religion is just a algorithm of just like I think any religion is just a explanation of how we cope with things.
Yep.
I don't think really there any truth in it. It's just it's a way of looking at your life through a
Yeah,
way
it's a
that
way to explain the world around
yeah
you. Yeah, I get that.
yes
Do you remind me? Do you have one wife?
and zero wives.
You got several, and are they still Muslim?
Zero wives.
Oh, you said zero. I thought you said several.
No.
Okay. And how about your family? Your mom, dad?
No, my parents are very my mom is dead. My dad is very atheist.
Oh, that's interesting. So that's probably why
Yeah.
you're an atheist today, is because you had that devil influence of your dad.
Probably. I'm also a very daddy's boy, in the way that we talk a lot and we talk a lot about religion and he's he was the flower power generation. Uh, so it was a lot of like I saw pictures of my dad in the 60s with a long beard and
Hopefully he was wearing pants.
well, some of the time, yeah. A lot of flower in his hair and
Oh yeah. Muslims. Okay, for the Muslims listening right now, Fro here. Fro, is that your name?
Mhm.
Yeah, Fro here didn't
Yeah,
have a chance. He had a hippy dippy father who's an atheist. Like there's no way he could have stayed in Islam. It's just it was Allah's will that he become an atheist.
And the thing is also like I think one of the reasons why I also came to the conclusion that it wasn't true was okay. Let's say it is all true. Let's say uh, 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 Muslims have it 110% correct. There is one huge problem with that. If you love your children as they say that God loves his children, you wouldn't let any of them perish or hurt themselves. And then the whole thing about hell would not make any sense.
Yeah, like
And
there's
that was maybe the final step that made me
yeah,
let go.
the whole
Actually.
concept of hell is well, the thing is with Islam, there's not too many universalists Muslims, are there?
No,
No. See, in
very
Christianity,
few.
that's all the rave nowadays. It's the new
Yeah.
fad. Well, I shouldn't say new, but more and more people are accepting universalism because they realize that the concept of hell is not only heinous and despicable, but it is contradictory to this God.
It
Yeah.
is.
And
Yeah.
the same holds true for Islam. If
Yes.
Allah truly doesn't want anyone to disbelieve in him, and if he hates that, if Allah hates this disbelief, why create something that he knew with 100% certainty would lead to something that he hates?
And also, I think the explanation of even though I came, let's say I died and came to heaven, and he looked at me and said, "Hey, what's up?" I would say I tried as best as I humanly can. Now you should know that you're God. Maybe that's super naive of me, but yeah.
But here's a little tip. It works for both Christians and Muslims. This is how you shut them up if they want to argue with you. You just say, if I'm wrong, I'm going to take my punishment like a man. In other words, you look them straight in the eye and say, I'm prepared to go to hell.
Yeah.
And they're actually in a strange way going to respect you for that. And they got nothing left to say after that. Okay, this guy's willing to go to hell. What else can I say? Because there's no bigger stick than that. And then you can throw in I don't even desire how many virgins do you get? 72? Yeah.
72 virgins.
Say I'm tired of virgins. Enough already. Enough with the virgins. I mean, I just want to sleep. So.
Yeah. I'm very grateful that you took that test with me. I think if I wouldn't start there with if I prayed and God wouldn't give me the guidance for that, how can He give me guidance in other things in life? And I appreciate you more than you will.
Did you see I held the book up?
Dog.
I still have it.
I did.
I still have it. Yeah. And I use it.
Yeah.
I use it to prop up my mic now. That's what the crown's good for.
At least it's not getting wasted.
Oh
right?
no, I'm a good Mennonite boy. I don't waste things. So when I get a crown, I put it to use. I use it to prop up things.
So how is your poker going, by the way? Before I go.
Oh, good. Yeah. But don't tell anyone because then they might not come. You want to come?
Yeah.
Okay, email me. Email
try.
me. I'll put you on the list. You got money?
Cool. I can get some money.
Yeah, borrow some money from your hippy dippy dad.
Yes, I will. Very nice to talk to you again, Doug.
Okay, take care.
Okay, God bless.
Science bless you too.
Bye.
See, Fro came in here about, 6 months ago. Pretty devout Muslim. Believed that Allah spoke to him. And after months of the PineCreek devil influence, he's now a committed atheist. Will die an atheist. Unless he sees a water-soaked napkin lit on fire in the name of Allah. I see you're wearing your beautiful communist t-shirt, comrade. Don't forget one loaf of bread for the month of... Yeah, no, this is the opposite of communist. This is Coca-Cola, the symbol of capitalism. Thanks for the donation, Mighty Moonworm. No, that's a good name. You really helped that guy out, Doug. Keep up the good work. See? Look at that. If I got $5 for every time I deconverted a Muslim, I'd have $5. Did you watch Dr. Lydia McGrew's response to Apologia video on the Testify channel? No, I have not. But I know it exists. But my guess is it's boring. But getting back to the justice of God, which applies to both Allah and Yahweh, well, maybe not Allah so much. But the sense of justice is just totally backwards and screwed up. Now, maybe these two believe in levels of heaven and levels in hell. Let's see if they talk about that.
I don't get it. I mean, you have an all-powerful being who is justice itself, and yet you get mad about his plan to manifest that justice.
Yeah. What's there to get mad about? So imagine, Alyssa, someone who behaves exactly the same way you do in their day-to-day life. And my guess is, Alyssa, you don't kill, thieve, rape, pillage. You're a pretty okay gal. So imagine a gal just like you, except an atheist, but day-to-day actions. You know, maybe on Sunday don't go to church, don't pray, but, you know, just living, going to malls, buying books, licking your finger and flipping pages, that sort of thing. Is it just that they go to eternal conscious torment? And I'm quite sure Alyssa is a ECT gal. But maybe she says, oh, they'll go to hell, but it's not really that bad.
It's just, it doesn't occur. It just blows my mind. I mean, we have people rioting in the streets over certain things, and there have been injustices, of course. I mean, we've got some sin stains in our nation that
sin stains.
I'm grieved over. Lots of us are grieved over.
You know how you get the sin stains out? Febreze. I've found Febreze, and it's gotten all my sin stains out. And it smells incredible. So the biggest sin stain you can imagine, you just like it wipes it as white as snow. Febreze, the new Jesus.
And hopefully we're on a trajectory correcting a lot of those things. But the thing about the resistance to God's wrath and justice, which has to do with the perfection of Jesus, it kind of leads up to that, is that you have a God who sees all of that. And he's like, okay, I'm going to solve the problem.
Yes.
I'm gonna become God in flesh. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna live the perfect life that none of you could have, mm-hmm. and then I'm gonna take all of those sins upon myself.
Yeah, this is interesting. She said that Jesus solved the problem. Really, though? How many people go to hell, Alyssa? Some? A lot? Most? If Jesus really solved the problem, you should be a universalist. But I don't think you are you? Jesus solved absolutely nothing if nobody accepts the free gift, right? Humans are way more powerful than Jesus because Jesus can live a perfect life, die on a cross, and rise the third day. But if people don't accept that gift, embrace what Jesus has done for them, then it's all for naught. Imagine that, Alyssa. Imagine not one person on planet Earth became a Christian after Jesus rose from the dead. Then you have to ask yourself the question, well, what good was it? It was all for nothing. Well, maybe you could say, well, maybe for the past people. But let's say past, present, and future. Nobody accepted Jesus' atonement. Then Jesus was worthless. It's people that make Jesus worth it. They have to accept it in order for it to be worthwhile. And this is precisely why there's Calvinists, because of the problem I just introduced. I wonder if even Christians even thought of that before, what I just said. Probably not, because they don't think. I mean, a lot of them don't think. Universalism is progressive Christian rhetoric. Yes, Drunkel, Stos. Yes, I agree with you. Universalism is for those hippy-dippy Christians. that wear flowers on their shirt and thongs for underwear.
Whoever wants it, whoever wants to repent of their sin and follow me, I will throughout your life conform you to my image. And one day there will be no more sin. There'll be no more injustice. There'll be no more tears, no more crying, no more death, all pain. It'll be gone.
What?
But
one day there'll be no more tears? See, this is another thing. I know with a high degree of confidence that both Alyssa and Melissa like to cry at a good movie, a good romantic drama, right? Man, you can't cry in heaven. No more tears in heaven. Or is there some Christians here going to say, well, there's tears in heaven, just the good tears, not the bad tears, right? No, does the Bible say that?
you have to define justice my way. Because he is, I'm not saying that me, I'm talking for God. I shouldn't do that. God says.
Talking for God, I shouldn't do that. That's actually quite funny. Apologists talk for God all the time.
God's way, right? He is justice. There's not this arbitrary standard of justice outside of God that he has to live up to in order to be called just. He sets the standard. And anything that we do that falls short of that is unjust. It's injustice. It's sin. It's evil.
Why is sin bad? This is another trick question to ask Christians and Muslims. Why is sin bad? There's only one good answer to that question, and here it is. There's your hint. Sin is bad because God is the definition of sin. It's bad by definition. But if a Christian answers a different way, like sin's bad because your life will get worse. Oh, no. That's a bad answer. Because your life can get worse by accepting the truth and following Christianity. So you can't go there. You can't be tempted to meld together this concept of sin with suffering. No, that's a mistake. You just say sin is bad by definition. We just defined it that way.
Yes. And that's the beauty of the cross, is that at the cross, love and justice perfectly meet, and then an opportunity is given because there is wrath for sin.
See, now she's changing it a little bit. Jesus solved the problem. No, he gave an opportunity to solve the problem. And it's in the hands of humans. You think God's in charge of eternal destiny? No. According to Christians like Alyssa, you are in control. You are the God of your own life. Oh, Calvinists are just like, oh, so good, Doug. Love it. These non-Calvinist hypocrites.
All of it. The difference is you can take it or Jesus can take it.
Yes.
When Jesus died on the cross, he drank the cup of God's wrath. And
No. Not for everyone. If he drank the cup of God's wrath for everyone, then there's nothing you can do. You're in charge of whether he drank the cup of wrath for you. You are the God of your own life by denying yourself and choosing a different God.
And let that stand in for you, or you can drink the cup of God's wrath.
Preach
Now,
it.
if we know we're sinners, though, but here's the problem, Melissa. If you think that you're basically a good person, if you think that...
Thank you, Roger Wetzel. I'm still here. I'm still listening. Thanks, Doug, for your service to Satan. Well, Satan is a messenger of God. That's a true story. So in a way, I work for God as well. But Satan is my first in command.
Humans are basically good. I'm not a sinner. I shouldn't look at myself like a sinner.
Yeah.
Just see how beautiful you are. Well, you are beautiful. God created you in his image and likeness, but you've distorted that image with sin.
You're beautiful, but you're a wretched sinner. But you're made in God's image. But you're dark, dank, and terrible.
And justice requires that there's punishment for sin. We all know that deep down. We all know that. But that's the beauty of the cross, is that Jesus drank the cup of God's wrath, so you don't have to, but you can if you want to. You can drink that cup.
I'll drink it. I'll take my punishment like a man, Alyssa. What'd you say to that? There's nothing you can say, right? This is how you shut Christians up. They'll say, okay, and move on.
But you don't have to. There's a rescue plan. There's an option for you.
Rescue from what? From sin. Okay, do you want me to... I'm thinking this is going to be boring, and if it is boring, I'll turn it off. But it's on Testify's channel, right? With the apologia thing. Testify.
Is built.
Oh, yeah, okay. Tim, you lost weight. Have you been taking the PineCreek diet advice? Okay, hour 26. Oh, no. Okay, random. This is going to be random test of interest here.
Prison. Now, are we supposed to imagine that these 8,000 people who have just converted to believe in Jesus are not telling anybody about the stories they've heard? Are they not telling their spouses?
Boring.
Saul of Tarsus, it says that he's dragging people off to prison. It doesn't name them, but it does that he's hailing many of them and taking them to prison. So I mean, it even says that more people were imprisoned. So
right, but Bart's going to focus on the first 4 chapters of Acts.
Boring.
That Jesus rose from the dead. Well, of course, that would be a circular argument, but that's not what we're saying. We're saying rather that the best explanation for the nature and variety of the claims that emerged from those that were purportedly eyewitnesses of Jesus' resurrection that we find in the Gospels is the resurrection hypothesis, and we make an argument that the Gospels and Acts accurately.
Hey, John.
Hello.
I remember you.
I remember you too, my friend.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Okay.
How are your disciples doing?
Which ones?
You tell me.
I work alone. So.
Do you?
Yeah. No, the last time I remember seeing you, you made some shorts about me that weren't that flattering.
Yeah, you know, I had to rethink about my approach.
Were you having a bad day that day or what?
Something like that.
Okay, that's what I figured.
You didn't take them to heart, though, did you?
Oh, no, I'm mostly dead inside. Okay. You know that. But I did kind of feel like a little... like, wow, I thought John and I were simpatico. I thought you liked me.
I'll tell you what, we probably get along more than you think than some other people.
Well, that's definitely true. But I remember, like, now you're going to think I'm lying here, or maybe not telling the whole truth, but I sincerely was trying to help your channel, especially in the beginning. Like, I would show up often, and I think that helped draw a crowd for you a little bit, at least a little bit. It gave you something to talk about once in a while. It made it a little more exciting. Like, you know, people get mad at me, and so that helps drive some interest in the channel. And so I thought I was, you know, kind of on your side a bit.
You, to some extent, you know, recently I've been getting a lot of views without the numbers recently, so, you know. The channel, I think it served its purpose. I just took it down. Oh, I hope people got the best from it.
Oh, you took it down?
Yeah.
When did you do that?
You didn't see that?
No. I haven't looked at your channel for probably a month.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did that a couple weeks ago.
Okay. And is it just because you got tired of it, or?
I just felt it served its purpose. Well, felt and sort of thought. I'm working on a book for, like, basic philosophy currently.
So would you say you're more like a philosophy guy now, or still an apologist/philosopher?
I'm a formal online apologist.
Okay. So you're still Christian?
I'd say so.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's an interesting answer.
Yeah.
Because most people would just answer yes, but you said I'd say so.
Yeah, I'd say so.
What does that mean? Does that mean like many or most Christians would consider you not a Christian? Is that why you say it that way?
Well, you know, I definitely will not be the minimal facts guy. I think Jesus probably deserves more than 4 facts, if he is the Son of God. Something like that.
Yeah, Lydia McGrew, I just was watching her. She'd say the same thing.
Is she doing is she doing her maximal facts or the minimal facts? Because I've seen she's gone back and forth between them.
No, she's I think she's always been a maximal facts gal.
Or no, it's Gary Habermas.
Yeah, Gary Habermas is the minimal, and Mike Lacona. Yeah.
Jesus deserves the minimum.
Did you see when I interviewed Gary Habermas on Canadian Catholic Channel?
I did not see that.
Oh yeah, that's a gem. He got really mad at me. And he got even more mad at me afterwards because I asked him for a list of names because he likes lists, like he likes the consensus. And I asked him for a list of names of people who had nothing to do with Christianity, weren't raised in it, but became historians. And not necessarily historians in the New Testament, but just historians, PhDs. And they looked at the evidence for Jesus historically and then became Christians because of it. I said, do you know any people like that? Because I want to interview them. He says, oh yeah, I can think like 10, and I'll send you a list after this interview. And then he emailed me afterwards and said, I'm not going to send you the list, even though I have it, because you're a bad guy. I've been getting, Josh might even be here to vouch for me, but he basically said that he's been talking to other people and they warned him about me, and so he's not going to send it to me. So then I said to a couple of Christians, well, if he's not going to send it to me because I'm a bad guy, maybe he views these people as good guys and he'll send a list to them and then they can send it to me. But no list. I don't think that list exists.
Well, something I'm no historian, I've read here and there, and I have my views, but something I just find curious is like, why is it that modern day academics can say what historians back then? Because the historians, we just have fragments. Well, they just have fragments of the history back then. So most likely, those who reported the history back then probably knew what they saw. Like, for example, with the martyrdom of, is it James in the book of Acts and Josephus? Whether he was thrown off a wall or, killed first and then thrown off. Probably the historical fact was he was probably persecuted under Herod. That probably happened. So it's just these little details that people argue about and miss the whole point, is where I get a little confused with modern academics. Like, you shouldn't need a list of 18 scholars. It's helpful to get the information, but ultimately a lot of it is opinion, in my view.
Oh yeah, but then that becomes dangerous, right? For Christianity, if a lot of it's opinion, because
I wouldn't say for Christianity. I'd say for some Christian academics, perhaps.
No. But if I was to ask, who's Jesus? Like, describe him.
No, I'd go to the Gospels. I'd say those are the first reportings.
But those,
I'd say
those are opinions of people, right?
Well, it depends on. You got to read the history of the church and the roots and the foundations they laid down.
But it's all opinions of people, even the tradition, like the Roman Catholic.
I'm saying, okay, correct. We could re-emphasize what is a better word for opinion than a really not an educated guess, but rather a strong view. We could say that, a strong perspective. So I'd say the gospel writers probably have the best perspective of who Christ was.
Only if they were there.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd say by even modern historical academic standards, that meets the qualifications. But see, I'm just not interested anymore on debating God and Christianity on historical debate. Like, I've lost complete interest.
Why is that? Why do you think your interest is gone?
For me, my interest is gone because I think God speaks for himself in ways, and I think people would dissect certain facts about God and other people. And I think if God is going to be hidden to any, it's going to be those who vulture over just information. But that's just me. I think God makes himself known and clear to many people.
Can I ask how?
Many Muslim accounts.
Like, for you personally, how did God make himself clear to you?
I don't like talking about myself. I'd say stuff like in the Middle East, there's one story in this one book I'm reading, Now, granted, it's a natural phenomenon what's going on in the Middle East with people with the conversions of Christianity and the dreams and visions and the appearances of Christ. So, there's a phenomenon going on. I got a story. Can I read a story for you later that will prove my point? And it has nothing to do with Christianity. It's like a ghost story.
Not really.
Yeah, it's a modern ghost. You're not interested?
No.
No?
No, just like you're not interested in the history of the historical stuff.
Well, it's sort of like the Flying Man story, but it's more modern stuff.
Well, I'm sure I think I know that there's stories like the Flying Man out there, but it's what interests me is the reliability of when people say they know who God is. I will make the claim, no, they don't. And when I ask them, how do you know? What's your epistemology of knowing who God is? And they tell me stories like, for example,
well, yours is testing God, right?
Yeah, well, some type of demonstration, right? But when I hear,
that's what Satan said to Christ, right?
Well, that's what the text says. Yeah, that doesn't mean an actual Satan said this, right? But
the spirit of Satan,
or the spirit of Satan. But I can, without exaggeration, out of all the interviews I've done, I've heard people tell me things like, I went to a Christian rock concert and God spoke to me there. And I said, well, what do you mean? I felt this warm sensation in my chest. Now, if you hear that, do you say, oh, yeah, God spoke to them and that's how they know who, at least partially, who God is? You and I would laugh at that, wouldn't we?
I would.
You wouldn't?
I mean, no, I said I would because Satan masquerades as light, and that's just it's like the song "Listen to Your Heart." It's like Jeremiah 19. Don't listen. The heart is deceitful above all else. Who can understand it? I, Lord, test the mind.
But
I'm that kind.
But you and I are agreed that would be a horrible way to say you know who God is.
Yeah, I think people become very arrogant with just experiences like that, and then they have a false sense of purpose.
So then the question
it becomes a Jeremiah 29:11, something like that.
So then the question becomes, well, what's a good way to know who God is? If that's a bad way, what would be an example of a good way?
Well, what's a good way that your wife knows you?
We spend time together.
That could be perhaps one way. Now, there are certain ways you spend time with your wife that you probably wouldn't want to share to others, right?
Oh, yeah. No, that's private time.
Yeah. It could be like that with God, perhaps.
Okay. So
your wife's a good kisser, by the way, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The thing is, does God have lips? Can he kiss me?
He has a voice, I'm sure.
Does he?
Well, the text says he does.
See, this is why I don't like that analogy, because if your analogy, this is the way your analogy would have to be good. God would have to have hands, arms, vocal cords, lips. Because that's how I know my wife.
If we're talking about metaphysics, then that's a whole nother thing, because I think God would communicate within the whole human nature and to what he is himself. I am an old-fashioned fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom and knowledge, something like that. So I do think there's a lot of truth.
But this doesn't help me. Like, how do you know who God is? And you said, well, you spend time same way you would with your wife, if that's the answer. And I no, but it's not the same. It's not even close to the same, because God's not physical like my wife is. So how do you know who God is?
Well, you're talking about for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, perhaps God just won't make himself known then.
Okay, so for someone else then, how would they know who God is?
Well, in the Gospels, Christ does a lot of miracles for certain individuals. So they would know it.
See, that answer I like. I love that answer.
Yeah. And this is where we're going to start being on the same page and common understanding with each other, I'm sure.
And that's why I ask people to pray to Jesus for me to light my water-soaked napkin or to raise the dead.
Yeah. Like the prophets of Baal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And until that day, I don't think I can justify believing that this God is real, does anything, cares.
From that perspective, I could agree.
But yet you still believe.
I believe, but you don't believe.
So has God done something like that for you?
If he has, it would be like, what you may the stuff you may not share with others with your wife, because you never know what rumors may spread about Doug and his wife.
Okay, so I understand you're saying that God has done something for you, but you don't want to share it, right?
It's more so just a general principle of how I think of God, and if he has amount of people that he loves, the poor in spirit, that whole list in the Sermon on the Mount, he's probably going to keep it a secret to some extent. It's like it's between them and God. Like, that's my policy. It's like it's between you and God. So if God is going to show himself to you in this lifetime, it's between
But do you ever doubt that God showed himself to you?
About 2 years ago, when I didn't get something that I wanted. I think you were aware of that, though.
Yeah, but I mean, even today, like, the questions I ask, right? I don't even have to.
Yeah, the what ifs.
I don't even have to ask them. You know them already. And as you sit there today and think about what you don't want to share with me, but think about the reasons that you might give to yourself of why you believe in who God is. I think you and I both know that these are not reliable ways to know. Would you agree with that?
2 years ago, when it struck my heart the most why I didn't believe in God. Yeah, I'd agree those are bad reasons for believing in a God.
But not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, you think they're good reasons.
Well, yeah, I have good reasons. But can I ask you a counter question?
Mm-hmm.
So you agree that because I believe it's on tape. I have it on tape at least. You said that you must be willing to make your spouse cry for truth's sake, right? Something like that.
I remember talking about that. That my wife did cry when I told her I left Christianity, but I don't think I said that I purposely wanted to.
Well, as a general principle, do you think if they have a strong stance in their belief that they take as true, that crying is part of the equation of it? Probably.
Oh yeah. Just like
okay.
Yeah, just like I think if my wife went to church, or she does go to church, and I cried about it, how can my wife go to church and listen to all that BS? Like, I would not make a judgment on her. I don't think anybody would.
So there's two types of crying.
You shouldn't cry, Doug. Your wife made a choice. She wants to go to church. That's a bad cry. I mean, yeah, people will be disappointed in other people, even the ones that you love.
Let me ask you a follow-up question. Is this stupid to cry at the same abuses? Like, that gets truly redundant after a while, right? If you keep crying over the same thing and you realize, no, it's just something that's not true.
I don't know if I understand the question. Is it?
Well, it's like the book of Job. When Job, he cuts all his hair off and like he's crying to God. And he learned a lesson from that. He learned not to trust Satan, because Satan is the only thing that came to him and just told him half-truths. And God comes and restores everything, by the way, and basically tells him, who are you to counsel me without knowledge, You learned a lesson. You learned who to trust. That's sort of where I come from.
I don't understand where you're going with this or what your point is.
My simple point is that I think one has to learn valuable lessons in life, and at some point you realize you're crying over the wrong things.
Okay, but what does that have to do with my wife?
Oh, it's just a simple analogy, because I can pull up the clip if you want.
Sure.
Yeah, give me a second. Did you see that video, by the way?
Which video? The one you're pulling up?
Yeah, I had it on my channel a little while ago before I took it down.
Oh, you mean the short? No, you didn't have any videos on any shorts that you did.
Not the shorts. It was a video on something like right reason versus the heart.
No, I don't think I did.
Okay. Let me take a second. You can ask me any questions if you want to follow up on what I'm trying to get at. If I'm trying to get at something. I think
what I'm sensing from you, and tell me if I'm wrong, is you've been abused in your life, and you think I'm abusing my wife.
No.
That's not where you're going with this?
I mean, me personally, I think that about myself. I don't know how you and your wife live. That's between you.
Wait. So am I right or am I wrong? You have been abused in your life. True or false?
True.
Okay.
In certain ways that.
And do you think that I'm abusing my wife in a similar fashion to the way you were abused?
Well, is it abuse to make one cry for no reason?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, do you think do you think that me leaving Christianity is no reason?
For what, your wife to cry?
Yeah. So let's say, let's say you cried because a loved one of yours.
All I want to get at is the point of, like, if you make one, let's say even torment or torture one to cry for no reason to get them to leave something, would we both agree that's a
whoa, where'd you get this to get them to leave business?
Well, no, just to get them to leave something. I'm not talking about you and your wife at this point.
I know, but you know that's not the case with me and my wife, right?
Sure. Yeah, no, you would know that.
Yeah.
I don't
no.
I don't see
in fact, I encourage my wife to go to church.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. I hope she gets the best from God there. But anyway, my main point is, like, is it truly wrong? And, like, not even like from a moral realist standpoint, but is it just irrational in general that if you want someone to leave something that you make them cry for no reason?
If you want someone to leave something to make them cry for no reason. Well, the reason
them into despair.
The reason would be to make them to leave. So what you just said is contradictory.
Well, okay, if one has a strategy to make someone leave something, like, go into war, but as a general principle, would you say it's wrong to make someone cry for no reason at all? And you want them to leave something that has much reason.
That's a tricky question, because I can say I love chocolate.
I think it's a simple yes or no, but let me just
let me change my mind, because I said yes, but I was in the context of what we were talking about earlier. But in general, I'd say
you seem scattered.
I'd say no, because if I said, here's an example, if I said I love chocolate and you started crying about that, how can?
Oh, well,
that's like, is that my fault? If I said I love chocolate and you broke down in tears, I can't believe Doug said that he loves chocolate.
And in that case, you make someone cry. No, I would not say that's your fault.
Right.
But, like, let's
say I leave Christianity and my wife cries. Is that my fault?
I don't want to talk about you and your wife.
Like, you're the one who brought it up.
I did. I apologize for that.
So you
anyway,
don't want to show the video now?
I think it'd be useless too.
Okay. I'm not sure why you're doing a 180 right now, but
anyway, let's go to the book of Job. Like, would you say, whose side would you take, God's or Satan? Satan, who says, does God worship you for no reason? You've given him things and he worships you. Take it all away. Is that wrong of Satan to do? To challenge God in such a way, even though God has blessed a man that loves him and fears him?
Yes.
You would agree that's wrong of Satan to do?
In the context of God being the moral foundation, yes.
Yeah, King of Heaven, King of Earth.
Yeah. By definition, it's wrong.
Yeah, that. Then we agree.
Okay, and why are you bringing this up?
Oh, it's just a strong moral point, like to make people cry for no reason, just like how Job broke down in tears and cut his own hair after he lost his children for no reason and lost everything that he loved. So, like, that's just my standpoint on certain issues.
If you have a problem with me, just come out and say it. I still don't understand your point here. I honestly don't understand what you're trying to tell me. I honestly don't.
No, I could see that. No, I just want to establish that we agree that, like, from a spirit of Satan standpoint, it's wrong to drag one from God for no reason at all.
Oh, and you feel that I've dragged people away from God?
I mean, isn't that the point? Like, isn't that sort of your joke? Like,
is that even possible? Is that even possible for me to do? According to the scriptures,
I don't.
No one can take no one can take a true believer from the Father's hand. It says in the Gospel of John.
No one can separate you from the love of God. That's Romans.
And no one can take the child out of the Father's hand, as it says in the Gospel of John. Are you saying that I can overcome that verse?
I don't think.
Well, then what are you worried about? If someone's a true Christian, it's impossible for PineCreek to separate them from God, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the devil exists, he would work through someone like PineCreek.
Right, but if someone's a true Christian, can the devil take them away from God?
I don't think if they stay truly faithful to him and his teachings and truly fear him.
Right.
Truly love him.
So really, there's nothing to fear. In fact, I could make this my goal, my mission, which is not. I've encouraged people to stay Christians before, but I could make it my goal to lead you away from God right now. And if you're a true Christian, I'm doing it in vain. It's impossible. Right?
I'd agree, but it's the Christian who can fall away from God.
Right. It's only you can do that. So now
my
my question to you would be, then why are you worried about me? I mean, let me ask it. Are you upset if I try to lead people away from God?
Well, if that is your true purpose, and if there is a point in time when you could possibly convince them to leave, and from a slippery slope standpoint, that would be alarming. And who the fuck cares what I think about Doug? Like, God the Father, like, that would be more scary. Like, if one has intentions to slippery lead people away from the love of the Father.
Okay, but why is that so bad?
By turning people away from God?
Yeah.
Well, I think it'd be corrupting the human nature, but I think it'd be corrupting the image of God. It's like Satan tempting Christ in the desert, even though he's trying to discipline himself and love God even more. I think it's pretty bad. But even from a logical standpoint, it's like, who has the bigger guns here? In theory, I mean, reality is a whole other conception. But if we're talking about God the Father, who's the creator of all things and controls heaven.
Yeah, he's the bigger gun, right?
Yeah.
So even if Satan and I were tight, the Christians should have nothing to worry about.
As long as they don't betray God.
Yeah. So I can try purposely to get Christians to betray God, but God's bigger, and no one can take the child away from the Father's hand except for themselves. So all you should be doing is saying, hey, Doug's just spinning his wheels here. He's not going to be successful.
So would you say the flaming arrows of the evil one are weak and ineffective if they truly focus on God? If one focuses on, let's say, God versus the storm.
Yeah, if your worldview is true, I can't touch them.
Wait, you or Satan?
Both of us.
Both of us. Wait, is that what you're trying to do?
Well, I'm actually tempted to try with you right now. Is that all right?
I'm sure that they could give you some ammo.
I'm just spinning my wheels. It's impossible to be but I'm a fool. Like, I don't believe in any God. So
it's not impossible for me to.
Do you think I could convince you to leave God?
I'd say stronger and much more intimidating have in recent times.
So I have a chance, is what you're saying.
What if? I mean, solipsism could be true.
Is it true that your life would become a mess if you left God?
I definitely would not want God to leave me in despair and a false fantasy of reality. So I think without God, life would, I mean, one could be successful if they do certain things, But if one maintains good in a false sense of reality and believed lies like flaming arrows, then yeah, life would suck without God. Like I would definitely agree with that.
Like specifically, how would it suck?
For those who like maintain the Christian virtues and all that.
But I'm talking about you. Like, what would change in your life if, let's say, you became like me, like an atheist?
Well, if I became an atheist or like went to the dark side, you could say life for now may not be that bad.
But
I mean, it's quite the hypothetical, Doug.
No, people leave Christianity all the time. It's very reasonable. I mean, it's not even a far out hypothetical. How would your life change? You said it wouldn't change much. It might even get better if you left Christianity.
Better in a worldly sense.
Okay, so what's the downside?
The downside, I'd say, I agree with Christ where he says, "Don't fear him who can destroy body and soul." Or body, but fear him who can destroy body and soul. I am one of those types of Christians, you could say.
So hell.
Yeah.
So you believe in what type of hell? Eternal conscious torment type, or annihilation, or
some would say eternal conscious torment, but if one is loyal to Satan, they may not enjoy it. They may not regret it as much if they truly hate the Father.
No, I'm asking what you believe. What's your personal stance on hell? Like, do you believe in eternal conscious torment?
Well, I'm a little bit of a universal reconciliationist. I think there will be common understanding between all, and all will be saved.
Well, then why would you be worried about what I do? Because if I let's say I'm successful and I pull some Christians away from God, they're going to be reconciled back to him anyhow. And if here on earth, if their life might even get better,
yeah. Christians, I agree.
What's the downside of me pulling people away from God if they're going to be eventually reconciled back to him later?
It's more so like for people to think deeper, I guess, to be like, it's not as bad as you think at times. When it comes to those times of doubts, you could say.
I still don't see the downside. If the downside is hell, but people will be reconciled to God after they're dead, then there's no downside. Or do you believe that there will be a time of punishment for like 1,000 years or something, and then they go to heaven?
I definitely believe there would be a time of punishment.
Okay, and do you think that punishment would be commiserate to the sins they've done, or do everybody gets like the same punishment?
I think it will be a time period in which people will get the point, something like that.
Oh, that's it.
I don't know the time period specifically, so.
But if just getting the point is your punishment, like that's a reward, really.
Yeah, for some.
So I'm glad we cleared this up. There's no really downside of me pulling people away from Christ, because they'll be reconciled later.
If they're a part of Christ.
Yeah. And if they're not a part of Christ, they'll be a part of Christ eventually. If you're a universalist.
Yeah.
So, and if your life can get better here on earth by leaving Christianity, I would encourage you to do so, and then just wait till after you're dead to be reconciled.
People can follow that if they want to. I wouldn't suggest it. But anyway,
why not? There's no downside.
By better, do you mean prosperity?
No, I mean, like, I get the sense that you struggle in life. Am I wrong?
Myself?
Yeah.
Well, struggles against principalities of darkness. If Christianity is true, that would be the theory and hypothesis.
In other words, I'm proposing that if you left Christianity, you would struggle less.
Yes.
And if you truly believe that you will be reconciled with Christ here on earth, if you can struggle less, why struggle more?
Well, it's like more to success comes to him easily. So like there'd be less stress in that sense. I think success comes to those easily if they leave Christ in that way. Oh. But also, what is your success and why do you want it? And that's a good question too.
Is there any other things you want to say to me, or any beefs you have with me? Like, if you want to air anything out, now's the time.
Well, I don't want to air my opinions like a fool, but I just have a question. Like, Over the times we've interacted and I've watched your channel, there was a time when, like, did you have to put your dog down or something like that?
Oh, when I was like 8.
Yeah, was that emotionally effective for you? Like, what was that a big doubt from God that you had to do that to
No,
your dog?
not at all. God had nothing to
Oh.
do with that.
Oh, okay. What were the biggest doubts for you, or is it just a napkin?
No, it was more that coming to the realization that there really isn't good reasons to believe the Christian story to begin with.
No personal hurts then.
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, no more than anybody like there's always
Anybody else?
Yeah, like it's, and whether it's Christianity or not, like there's definitely, people have problems in life, but nothing that said, oh, no pastor touched me in a bad area. No, I was never abused. I had great parents.
No heartbreaks or like
No.
bad girlfriends or anything like
No.
that. Okay.
Like, do you need an explanation like that to figure me out or what?
I'm not trying to figure anything out. I'm just curious. Like, you like asking people about their lives, so it's like I'm just
Ask me whatever you want.
asking.
I
just
started
wanna
doubting
know
at age
what are-
35 because that's when the internet really took off. That was like, well, I should say
The web.
the internet apologetics took off about 15, 20 years ago. That's when I started doubting because I really wanted to understand the perspective of the people who disagreed with me. Maybe it was for prideful reasons because, I wanted to be seemingly intelligent like a lot of people, younger kids do today. I was like them. I want to, know the steel man on the other side. And I started to really put myself in other people's shoes. And I realized, oh, yeah, wait a minute. I wouldn't believe this based on that evidence. Why do I believe what I believe? Oh, yeah, that's not a reliable way of coming to knowledge. Like, there's many defeaters for this. And I started thinking that way.
Yeah, I thought that way. It's helpful. It's a helpful tool, but like ultimately, like, it's like wherever your heart truly lies, that's where all things flow. So it's like,
But that's
you got the
a
arrow where you
meaningless
want it.
platitude. I feel what you just said.
You feel? Oh, no reason. You just feel.
Well, it's my opinion. I like when you say the heart. Like, what do you mean?
I'd say like one's general focus.
Okay. Why did you say? Well, I guess maybe it's just a pet peeve of mine. I would prefer you say when someone has a general focus, that's where that will lead them in life. But the heart makes it sound like Disney.
Yeah. That was funny. Yeah, well, you think my God is a smuck, right? Or just the Christian God is a smuck?
Well, I don't know which God you believe in. I honestly don't.
I'd say the Christian God.
No, but even then, I got to get more specifics because some Christians believe God drowns babies, other Christians don't. Do you believe God drowns babies?
I believe there was a flood and God relented what he created.
Okay, then
But I also believe those.
Then he's a schmuck.
I also believe those children will have received God's mercy and grace and will have met
Still a schmuck.
him in heaven. Well, perhaps in one's own point of view. I also think what happens in this country is quite interesting.
If you were, you've heard my poof or drown.
How it takes 40 years to decide whether it's okay to whether it's life or unborn or whatever like that. I always find interesting. Or is it 50 years for Roe versus Wade?
Why is killing an unborn bad?
Well, from your moral standpoint, for an internal critique, then what's wrong with God doing it? I'm not, and don't get me wrong. From my position, I'm saying God is very patient and gracious with man.
You've heard my poof or drown, and you've heard my
poof
poof and drown analogy. It's not that it's not a judgment of a man to God that he shouldn't have killed the kids. That's not the point.
Well, if we want to talk,
the point is
like,
the
pain or drowning, or whatever. What if the baby doesn't feel the drowning and it's sort of just like a poof from?
Oh yeah, then it's fine.
Like
that's
just like a poof with.
That's way better. I'll give it.
It's probably the same thing.
But does the text
when God
drowns
babies in the Old Testament?
Do you think it's implied in the text of the narrative that the babies didn't feel pain?
It depends on what version you read. But
Any version.
Even if like there's probably worse pains in this world if one doesn't.
Oh, so you admit it could be painful, but it's not that bad?
If they feel something and like, but then if they see the face of the Father who Satan resents, it's like they're probably in better hands.
What would you think? Like, be very honest with me. What would you think if I told you that I drowned a 2-year-old? When it took 2 minutes.
Oh,
they were.
So are we equivocating on toddler and babies now?
No, I'm shifting it up. I realize we're talking about babies, but I'm going to talk about a 2-year-old. Okay.
Well, I also think you wouldn't love that 2-year-old since you're not the God
but
of heaven and all.
But what would you think of me as a person if I told you I drowned a 2-year-old and it took 2 minutes?
I wouldn't like you.
You wouldn't like me.
I wouldn't call you a person.
Okay. What do you think of God when God drowns a 2-year-old?
Well, I think you said okay, so I think that implies I think we both agree it's a bad analogy of comparing Doug to God.
Do you believe God drowned 2-year-olds? Yes or no?
In the flood, probably.
Okay. Now,
I also think
if I were
their souls are saved from
sure,
Hades.
they go to heaven, fine. But
well, let me ask you this: is that better than being on Earth during that time?
Sure, I'll give you whatever you want.
Like, let's say there's a serpent in the garden that says, "Has God really said?" And that fucks everything up. And God is so loving that okay, I'll try and save as many, but like when you believe that lie, souls can believe almost anything. Like if God is willing to work with humanity, some could say collateral damage. I'm one of those old-fashioned
Would
guys.
you have rather God poof them out of existence, the 2-year-old, or drown?
I don't want to tell God what to do. But yet, within his nature, he's pretty consistent.
Would you rather have God poof them out of existence instantaneously or drown?
If we're talking about my personal preference, I prefer them to be in heaven with him.
Would you rather God poof them out of existence or drown?
Is this just a personal preference or what's objective?
Yeah, your personal preference, John. Would you rather have God poof them out of existence, the 2-year-old, or drown?
I would prefer not to put my personal preferences on the creator of all things. That's just me.
May I ask why you are hesitant to put your personal preference on this?
Thou shalt not test the Lord your God. Like within the Christian framework, that's a pretty important rule. And you can see why and has God really said. And it leads to that. It leads to humanity believing lies, false realities, and doing all these evil things and going back on the scapegoat. Oh.
So are you scared of God? Like if you gave your personal preference right now, are you scared that God would punish you?
Yeah, I fear God. When it comes to like, in theory, like him who can destroy soul and body, like that gospel, yeah, I believe that gospel.
But you don't believe that gospel. You told me you're a universalist.
No, I believe that all Christians will come to Christ. I think there will be common understanding.
So when I asked you, would you prefer God poof or drown the 2-year-old, you said you basically refused to answer that question on the grounds that you are scared God might hurt you.
So you're saying testing God may have consequences.
Is that it? You don't want to answer that question because the consequences God might put on you are bad?
Well, now if I were at a table conversation with God like Abraham, and God and Abraham is like, hey, if there's 5 righteous, spare the city. I'm sure if God knows my heart, and I'm like, God, is there a better way? I'm sure he'd reason with me. But ultimately, he'd probably know better than I. Like if we're talking about, does my entire belief in God depend upon whether he drowned babies at a time?
No, I'm not talking about that at all.
My personal preference.
See, John, I'm going to make a claim here. I know your personal preference already.
What is it?
You would say poof.
Is that your personal preference?
That's my personal preference as well.
So you're just projecting.
Yeah, I am. Because you're not that much different than me.
What do you mean I'm not that much different?
We're both humans and we don't like to see 2-year-olds drown. Am I wrong? Do you like to see 2-year-olds drown?
Yeah, it's within No.
No, you don't, and neither do I. Look, we have something in common. We share something.
Well, no matter what, I think within the biblical narrative, there's going to be things that God is like, why the fuck do I have to see this?
So what I'm challenging,
why do I get
John?
You can challenge me,
John. I'm challenging you to be honest with your personal preference and just declare it out loud that you would prefer a 2-year-old to be poofed out of existence than God drown them. But because you have this irrational, I'm going to call it irrational fear that God's going to hurt you just by saying this on my channel.
That's not my claims. Like, I think there's a lot of twisting here.
Okay, tell me what I got wrong.
So before you ask, your personal preference, that's what you're trying to get at. And your question is, what's your personal preference? Do you prefer babies to be drowned? Firstly, I think God's preference is, why do I have to do this in the first place? And like, I'm human, I'm faulty.
We're talking about your preference, not God's.
I would want my preference to be God's, but I can admit my preference would be in that scenario, since it's so subjective, and to impose that would be irrational. I guess poof, but if we're talking about babies, it might as well be poofing. But if we're talking about toddlers, that's a whole different thing. If these toddlers have spirits of Satan and demons, and like they're killing other people during this time, like that's a lot of background.
Oh, wait a minute. So you're now saying you're willing to give your preference out loud that you would prefer God, or no, you would prefer the 2-year-olds to be poofed and drowned.
If there's a gun to my head.
Why would there have to be a gun to your head to answer that?
Well, I mean, that's how it's being asked in my view.
You think I have a gun to your head right now?
No.
No, but do you think just even figuratively, do you think I'm forcing you?
Do I need to be worried about something here?
I tell you, I'm so glad I'm out of Christianity because
it costs a lot.
Because I would not want to be like you. That you're sitting there in fear about poof or drown of a 2-year-old.
I could agree you don't want to be like me. But you said we're
But John, look what this religion has done to you. You are sitting there and you're fearful of answering that question, poof or drown, because of the negative consequences that God may reap upon you.
Well, if you want to talk about fear, I have that story and I can read it and see what truly brings fear into one's heart.
No, that's fine. Have a good day, John.
You're not interested? Have a good day. Thanks for the help.
Wow. You see how Christianity can warp the mind of people? That it generates such fear. I can't say poof because God's listening, and he did drown. Doug, how dare you pit me against what God actually did? No, I did that on purpose, John. I'm purposely pitting your moral intuitions against your God because you think you got your moral intuitions from God, and yet something's askew here. John, please watch back that little segment. Cohen? Is that how you pronounce your name?
Well, correct pronunciation is Kuhn.
Kuhn.
But I learned that Kuhn is not a nice word in English. So maybe you better pronounce it Cohen.
Are you
Is that right? Is that right? I heard.
No comment. Are you Danish? Are you Danish?
I'm Dutch.
Dutch. Oh, my ancestors are Dutch.
Yes, I heard so, yes.
Yeah, Mennonites come from Holland originally, I think. But anyhow.
Yeah, in Holland we call them doopsgezind.
Dopes? Yeah, that's a good name for Mennonites.
Doopsgezind, yeah.
Did you? What did you think of that last conversation?
It's bewildering.
Scary, isn't it?
It's very strange. And at some point I was thinking, you have a remarkable talent of sensing what somebody's telling, or what somebody is suggesting, or you can communicate very well, because at some point you sense that he was in a way blaming you for something, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I had more.
I didn't get it right away.
Yeah. Well, no, but to be honest, I had more information than the average viewer listening here. Like, he made a series of short TikTok videos. I think TikTok, or maybe no, YouTube, or maybe both. And yeah, it was clear to me that he views some of the things I do as being wicked because of some of the things his father did to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's really deep and terrible stuff. I think things that happened in his life, and he found comfort in Christianity. And so when he sees a guy like me trying to rip that comfort away from people, like, he'll lash out like a lion, like protecting its cub.
Yeah, it was very strange conversation.
And what did you want to talk about?
Yes, I have. I think it was 2 weeks ago. You were talking to somebody, and you told an analogy about a dog, where God creates a dog that poos, and then blames it for pooing. I found that a very comic analogy. But I have another analogy of a dog for you that you might find useful. Because that same person that you told that analogy to also said that, well, God does all these terrible things, but he has moral sufficient reasons which we don't know. And later, I think it was last week, you talked to that other woman. You had a long conversation with the woman, and she said more or less the same thing. And so there's an analogy with the dog where you can very clearly show what the problem with that way of thinking is. And so the analogy goes like this. So my neighbor has a dog. It's a pit bull terrier, and that dog has continuously attacks the mailman, the children in the neighborhood. Actually, the dog has killed one child, and he attacks all the cats. But when his boss, when his boss in the evening comes home, the dog picks his slippers and he comfortably lies with him on the bank when he watches television. And so the boss says, his boss, the owner of the dog, says, well, this is a very sweet and nice dog, but we just don't understand him. We don't understand what's going on in his head. So that is, as far as I can see, a very good analogy for a God that does the most terrible things. And if you say, well, he does those things, but we don't understand it, what you're doing is actually you're disconnecting the meaning of being good and being loving from the deeds.
Yeah.
Right. So you're making a disconnect with the language. You're disconnecting the language from what's happening.
No, yeah, I agree. And the problem is, if you define good using the nature of this God, well, how do you identify what is good? You have to get into the mind of God, just like you have to get into the mind of the dog. And I wonder how many Christians would admit they can get into the mind of God and know a specific action is always, always wrong, no matter what. No, like most Christians would, I think, if they're honest with themselves, would admit, no, they don't know that. They can't say anything is wrong unless they know beforehand whether God has sanctioned it or not, commanded it or not, has morally sufficient reasons to allow it or not.
Yeah, but they don't know the morally sufficient reasons, so they cannot
Right.
They cannot even say that it's good.
Yeah.
because it's just like the dog. If you don't know what goes on in the dog, so how can you say he's mean?
Yeah. Are there any Christians in Holland?
Well, I think in Holland and most north of Europe, religion is not a very big thing anymore.
What?
There are religious people, obviously, but it's very rarely on television or in the news. There's a few television channels where every Sunday morning you get some preacher telling something, but that's it.
Like when you were 10, you probably remember when you were 10 years old. Compare when you were 10 to now in Holland. Was there a lot more religious people when you were very young?
Well, 10. I think when I was 15 or 16, secularization was already pretty far.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it even predates you then.
Yeah, that happened more in the 50s, the end of the 50s, the beginning of the 60s. Yeah.
And in Holland, what was the impetus? What was the push for secularization? Do you know? Like in the US, it's fairly recent, and I'd say it's because of the internet that people are they're exposed to new ideas. But
well, I think it was 9/11 also.
Yeah, 9/11, yeah.
Which made a lot of people think about these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe the Second World War, where those terrible things happened with the Jews, and people thought, well, how can God allow these kinds of things? And there were a lot of writers who wrote about these things in books and more or less criticized the looking at this in a religious way.
Yeah. Were your parents religious?
Yes.
Christian?
Yes, sure. Reformed.
Did they die Christian?
My mother still lives. But they know, especially my mother, very soon, very early on when she was married, left Christianity. My father took a little bit more time, but he, at some moment he left also.
Oh, okay. So they both left. Yeah. That's rare though, right? Like how old were they when they left?
Well, so I'm not sure if the things here in Holland went like I see them happening in America. When I watch your show and the Atheist Experience and other shows like that, very often I see people very consciously leave Christianity and struggling with it and with their environment. I think here in Europe and in Holland it was more like a general movement within the community that people didn't take it that seriously anymore, and they left the church, and it was not a big deal. It was not a big thing. For some people probably, but for most people.
Well, I'll let you go, but before you go, you said you watched the Atheist Experience?
Yes.
What did they do better than me, and what do I do better than them?
Well, they don't do absolutely nothing better than you. They do everything very terrible bad. I think Matt Dillahunty is. I don't like him anymore, and I hear you saying that every now and then. I used to like him the first 10 years or something, but the last 6 years he is just terrible.
Well, what specifically? If he was listening right now, what advice would you give him? Constructive criticism.
Well, it's just try to really communicate with your callers, even if you don't like what they're saying or what they are like. More like you do, or what's the other guy? The one with a very nice chair.
Oh, T-Jump.
T-Jump, yes,
yeah.
He is. I love him also. Yeah, but Atheist Experience. I used to watch it a lot. I watch it less now.
Yeah.
but you do perfectly fine. This conversation that you had with the guy before me is just, you're a genius at that. You really do very well.
Well, thank you, but it does take something out of me. Like it really, like
I can see that.
It's like a pit in the bottom of my stomach. It's like
I can feel that when you were talking.
Because I see the pain.
Really
like I think he has real pain, and I honestly think that if he just let go of Christianity, some of that pain would go as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
Oh well. Anyhow, thank you. Do you play poker? Oh, you're in
No, sorry.
Holland.
No, I don't play poker.
Okay. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you for taking me.
Yeah, take care.
Have a nice day.
Natasha, can you talk about whether you think it is possible to love God given an infinite power disparity between God and a human being? That's an interesting question. Not sure why you're asking it. Are you a Christian? Thanks for the donation. Can you talk about whether you think it's possible to love God? Yeah, I think the answer is, within the Christian worldview, the answer is yes, because love is defined as love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast. But when it applies to God, basically, those who love God will obey his commandments. So then the question is, can you obey God's commandments? The Christian would say, of course you can. So therefore you can love God, even though you have this huge infinite disparity. How'd I do, Christians? That was a good answer, right? You like that? Well, what's interesting to me about the Atheist experience is they still get like thousands of views, live views. So are people that just there to see train wrecks? Hey, Nikki, are you the Nikki I interviewed? Thank you, Doug, for your humility and grace. I feel like I'm a piece of bread and you're just buttering me. I'm all oily now. But you are the same Nikki I interviewed, right? Welcome back if you are. PineCreek, it's that you are so sweet and gentle like my proctologist. Oh, yes. I don't like the non-sweet and non-gentle proctologists. I'm willing to take one or two more, Theist, if you want to call in. If not, that's fine with me. I can always go take a nap. Oh no. Guess who wants in? Kenny. PineCreek, the atheist experience is therapeutic for many atheists. It was for myself at one point. Yeah, I can understand that. Hey, Kenny.
Greetings, Doug. Good to see you, friend.
Did you like the video I made of you?
Up a little bit. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can hear you.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah. I have my speaker turned down.
Did you like the video I made of you?
What's that?
Did you like that short video I made of us?
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it was funny, right?
Yeah, it was hilarious. I thought it was actually.
So what are you going to say today that I can make a short video on? That'll be hilarious.
I'm not. Hey, I'm not going to get you stirred up today. But Are you gonna get that post office box you talked about?
Maybe. Why? What do you want to send me?
If I send you a shirt, would you wear it?
What does the shirt say?
I'll show you. I had it made just for you. There you go.
I am sheep number 100. You did not make that for
Watch.
me.
Now look on the back. Watch.
My shepherd left the 99 just to find me. Matthew. Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Would you wear that?
No.
If I sent it to you?
No.
Oh, come on.
I might.
I think it'd be a good gag. I think it'd be a good gag.
I might use it to clean my windows on my car.
I think you'd wear it.
I don't believe it, but I do believe in Coca-Cola.
We actually had these made, but we I got one for you.
Well, you're just going to have to keep it in storage.
Are you going to get the
maybe?
Post office?
I'll tell you what. If I get it, I'll let you know.
I want to send you the book too. I want to send you the book when it's done.
Are you're a good marketer? You know that.
I'll even sign it for you.
Oh yeah. As if that makes the value go up. So is the reason why you're going on all these atheist YouTube channels or even Christian ones because you're just trying to market your book?
No, because I don't think they're going to be interested in the book. No, I don't think that. No, I just
Who is going to be interested in your book?
Well, it's more to the church. I mean, I think you'd really like it, actually. It's more to the church, but
I think I already know what your book's about.
Perhaps you do.
That people have been turned off by the true gospel because of the inconsistencies and bad behavior of Christians.
Well, no, not really. No, it's not really an evangelistic book. It's more geared toward the church and the state of the church. You know, some of the doctrines and some of the ideologies that have come in. I mean, you could say in a roundabout way, yeah, that's true, but mostly it's geared toward bringing the church back to its original ideal. I think you would like it.
Maybe.
I really do.
Well, I don't like books in general. I think they're an inefficient way to get knowledge, and I don't like fiction. Like if your book is going to be like in the library, I'll find it in the fiction section.
Well, no, I mean it's just written in a way that it's very engaging. I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's not really there's not really a storyline in it per se, but it's also not just boring theological rhetoric. You know what I mean? That's more of just an observation, 30 some years of observation.
Do you go into detail of the chicanery and debauchery you went through in your 10 years of backsliding?
No, it's not really personal in that sense. I mean, I do talk a little bit about.
You should put a chapter in about that. Like people always love stuff like that.
I think I'm going to write a book on that actually.
Oh, okay.
I'll write another book about that. So.
Because when I read people about how crappy their lives are, it makes me feel good that my life is not as crappy as theirs.
Well, there's a lot of folks out there that, like you, that were in church and not in church anymore. I mean, whatever you want to call it, in Christianity, whatever title you want to call it. But there's a lot of folks out there. But there's not really any books written to that. Not really, not too many.
Are you scared the United States is going to become like Holland?
What's that? How so? I wasn't really listening to that.
The previous guest was from Holland, and he said there's just no need for religion anymore there. It died out in the 50s and 60s.
You know, I think I did hear that. I think I did hear that from somebody.
I think that's what's going to happen to the United States too.
I think there's a lot of empty churches over there, right? Is that what he was saying?
Well, yeah, my guess people still revere the churches, like the buildings and so forth, because of its history, but.
Right. Yeah, I think I talked to somebody else about that. It was either Holland or Denmark or something. I don't remember.
But this is your biggest challenge, Kenny, is to convince people like me that I even need Christianity.
It is a big challenge.
Because I have a pretty good life.
Well, and that's what the book's about. The book's about, getting the church to be that vehicle that it's supposed to be. So, I agree with atheists. I think church is a big failure. I just agree with.
No, but even your version of Christianity, why do I need it?
Well, I mean, my version, I don't really have a version. I wouldn't call it a version.
Well, the true version, the true Christianity, why do I need it?
Well, why do you need it? Most people would say keep you out of hell, right?
Yes, that's the only good answer I can think of.
I wouldn't say that though. I would say the reason you need it is because for the reconciliation property of it.
Okay, but why do I need to be reconciled to God?
Why wouldn't you want to be?
But I'm asking why would I need it?
Why wouldn't you want to be reconnected with your Creator? Why wouldn't you?
Because I don't see a reason to need it.
Well, then if you don't need it personally, then you reject it, right?
Yeah. But give me a reason
so
not to reject it.
But as far as giving you a reason, then I'm playing right into the hands of you being, for instance, I'll give you a good example. You use the lighting the napkin theory, right? And let's just say that, just for the sake of argument, well, I don't want to argue, that I come on here and I say, hold up the napkin, Doug, I'm going to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And then the napkin catches on fire. Now, at that point, I think you would probably, knowing you, what I've seen, at this point, I think you would probably say, how do you know that was the God that you prayed to that did that?
No, I'm a little different than most atheists. I think a lot of atheists would say that, but Mike, I've been pretty consistent on this. I would say that my confidence that your God is real because you spoke it in the name of Jesus and it immediately happened. And if you do it again, I tell you, I'd be blown away. And so, but what I'm getting at is now, let's say I believe that your God is real because of that napkin. Now the question is, why ought I serve that God? That's what I'm getting at now.
Well, because again, you are created on this earth, right? To know God, to experience God and to walk with God. That's the reason you were created. You wasn't created as a toy soldier, just so God could play with us. I mean, there's a reason we were created, so that we would reach out for him and find him and get to know him. So it's all a matter of reciprocation.
But what's in it for me?
Well, the relationship. I mean, the joy, the peace, the experience of walking with God and knowing God. I mean, it's not.
But I already have that.
But you don't have that.
No, I do. I do.
No,
I do.
You have a form of religion.
No. I mean, I got real relationships with real people today, and I have peace.
I'm talking about people. What I'm telling you is, here's what I'm telling you. Let me just tell you my perspective. Religion is mundane. It's laborious. It's not an actual enjoyable thing.
I get, Kenny, you don't have to tell me this. I already know this.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. But the relationship, if you have an actual relationship, it's boisterous. I mean,
I have a relationship with my wife now. How is a relationship with God better than with my wife?
Oh, it's thousands of times better.
Be more specific. How is that 1,000 times better?
Because the experience is that you get to know the one who made you, that created you, and you get to have a fellowship with him and walk with him and talk with him, and he communicates himself to you. The problem with our natural relationships is they're based on, what you get from her and what she gets from you, and it's all relative to how we're functioning together on this planet. Whereas the relationship with God is reciprocating and it doesn't have those stipulations in it.
Okay, but when you say you get to walk with the Creator, talk with the Creator, you don't really mean that though.
Well, yeah, in a spiritual sense, of course.
Yeah, but I'm saying a relationship with my wife is way better than the spiritual sense.
Well, then that's the choice that you make. You would rather have the physical experience with the person than,
because the spiritual sense is I don't even know what that is. Like, it's fuzzy. I can't hear God talk.
Well, I thought that you had that experience.
No.
You said you had.
That's the difference between your brain and having a relationship with yourself versus something outside of you.
So you did not have a relationship outside of you.
Kenny, can you answer? It boggles my mind you don't understand this. When I was a Christian, I would have talked like you. But now looking back as a non-Christian, as an atheist, I say that was not real. The attribution was not true.
Well, right. And I would say you fall in two camps there. I'd say either you did not have a real experience, or you had an experience and you are denying it.
No. You have to separate the experience from the attribution. The experience can be real, meaning you got these warm, fuzzy feelings, That can be real, but that's internal to you, that may or may not have anything to do with a deity.
But why disconnect from the attribution when that's in fact the one that you called on?
Because you know, Kenny, you know that there's people who have false attributions on this planet. You know that's true, right?
No, not in the sense of Christianity.
Right,
No,
right.
no,
You special plead. What you
right.
do is you say, I know that's true with false religions, but not in true ones.
It is, and the warm fuzzy feeling you're talking about, right?
But
I mean, there
is
are
no
experiences
way.
out
There is no way for you. Maybe I'm wrong, but how do you tell the difference between a false attribution and a true one?
I've told you this many times. It's a transformation that takes place.
People can
inside.
say they've been transformed based on something
Right,
false.
Right, but they're not truly transformed. This is the.
But how
only
do you know
God-
when you're truly transformed?
Because you become a new person. All
People
things
can
new.
become new people based on something false. And that and to
Absolutely
that you just say no, you disagree.
Absolutely not.
But
it's impossible because
it's
just like the
impossible to
Muslim-
become a new
like the
person.
Muslim that came on the other day.
No, Kenny, I got to stop you here because this is where you're stuck.
Doug, are you going to wear the shirt?
This is where you're stuck, Kenny. You cannot fathom Christianity possibly being false. Right?
It's not false, Doug. It's impossible that it's false.
Yeah. So you're in the business. You're called doxastically closed, meaning that your brain can't even entertain other
It
ideas.
doesn't matter what label you want to put on me, Doug. What I'm telling you is, when I believed it, there was a report, and
I know.
and it changed my life and transformed me.
I know,
immediately.
and
now, if you don't subscribe to that, and you don't want to believe that,
So Kenny, I've heard this 1,000 times from you. Well, that's exaggerating, but people can have false attribution. Now you believe it's impossible that that could be true for you. And the thing is, people who believe in the false attribution would say the same thing. It's impossible that I'm wrong about this.
there's only one way, Doug. There's not a rainbow. There's only one way.
So is it possible?
Now listen, Doug, if truth was subjective, if everybody could just put their own color in the rainbow, it would cease to be truth. The truth has.
I don't
to
believe
have
in.
absolute.
I believe.
It has to
I
have
believe in.
absolute, but there has
I
to be
believe.
one truth, Doug, to get to God.
I believe in
There has to
objective truth, Kenny.
Well, there has to be only one truth. There cannot be a
That's
buffer
false.
truth. Yeah.
You know it's false.
Well, no, it's not false. What's the definition of truth?
There can be, the definition of truth is that which comports to reality, and what comports to reality, how we arrive at that, how we know it, is through reasonable, reliable methods. So now, if
it's absolute, can you say it's absolute?
Yeah, well, some truth is absolute, some is subjective.
No, there's no.
Can I prove it to you?
There's only one.
Can I prove it to you, Kenny?
That's absolute.
Are you open to the idea that you might be, Kenny? Are you open to the idea that you could be wrong about this?
No, I'm not.
Then why would anybody?
Absolutely not.
Why would anybody talk to you about truth then, if you're not willing to even entertain the idea that you don't currently possess it?
Because the one that said he's the way, the truth, and
But that could be false.
Well, like I said, I believed it and had report.
Do you? Can you hear yourself that you are so stubborn?
Yeah, I am very stubborn.
Can I ask why you're stubborn about this?
Because I believe it with all of my heart, and I know it's true because it happens.
Stop. Can someone believe something with all their heart and be wrong?
No, not this way. No, absolutely.
If you answer no to that question,
I'm answering no to that question. I'm saying that this experience.
Okay, wait, no. I don't.
Experience.
Kenny, I don't care about your experience right now. If I ask the question, can someone believe something with all of their heart, whatever that means, and I ask you, could they be wrong? And you say no. Do you still stand by that answer?
I would answer that. I would say that they think that they're 100% right. I would say that. And I would admit that, but I would say they are not 100% right.
Can someone think that they're 100% right and be mistaken?
Yes, of course.
Can you think you're 100%?
No, not in this case.
Okay, do you hear yourself?
No, I'm trying to explain it to you.
In this case, I'm talking about this case.
Because when I believed it, it happened and manifested and backs up what it says.
Okay,
So
I got to think
to
of a
me,
good
the
example
claim,
to make this clear to
the
you.
claim is you don't have a good example
If I
because there is
if
no
I
good example.
if I flip a
You have a lot of Christians on here, Doug. That
Kenny, you're muted. I got to use the mute often with you. I'm trying to find a coin. If I had a coin here, imagine I have a coin, and I say to you, I know it's going to be heads. I'm not just believing and thinking. I know when I flip this, it's going to be heads. And let's say I flip it, and it is heads. Did I have actual knowledge that it would be heads, even though it happened to land on heads? Yeah, I'll unmute you.
coincidence.
It was a coincidence, right?
Right.
Do you think that could have happened to you?
No.
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 Okay, what if I said to
No.
you, if I flip that coin, I said, I know it's going to land heads, and it lands heads, and you say, oh, that's just coincidence. I said, no, not with me. With you, it would have been, but no, I knew it. It manifested itself, Kenny.
No, these are not. You're not comparing apples with apples here, Doug, by any means.
But do you see what I'm saying with the coin?
Well, sure, that's just common logic. But this does not. This supersedes that. This is something else. This is about the Word of God.
Why do you believe the Bible's the Word of God?
The truth. Because when I believed it, it happened.
What happened?
And it manifested. The new birth, Doug, the born again experience took place.
So you know the Bible's true because
I became a new creature.
Because you stopped drinking, right?
No.
Okay, what was the born again?
Immediately changed. Yes, I quit drinking, but that's just part of it.
You immediately change. Do you? But you would say it's impossible for someone to have an immediate change without being born again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you would say that's impossible for you to be wrong about that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then there's no sense talking to you about it.
Right, because you can't change your own heart, Doug. It's impossible.
Yeah, there's no sense to talk to you about it, about the truth of it, at least. Because you would just say, it's true, it's true, it's true. There's no chance I'm wrong.
Right.
I can't be wrong. I can't be wrong. I can't be wrong.
I'm just as stubborn as you are.
Can you imagine a world? You
think I'm more stubborn than you, man?
I'm serious. No, I'm seriously and sincerely curious if you have the mental capacity to even imagine things. Can you imagine a Christian like Kenny thinking that you had a born again experience? And let's say you're right. Christianity is true. Born again experiences are true. But imagine someone who claims to have a born again experience, and yet God had nothing to do with it. Do you think that ever happens?
No. If they had a true born again experience.
No.
Absolutely not. No. There's no such thing, Doug, as an untrue born again experience. There's only one. There's not several.
No, listen to me carefully. Someone claims to have a true born again experience.
Okay, go ahead. I'll explain.
Someone claims, they utter the words out of their mouth that they claim to have a true born again experience. And here's my question. Can they be wrong about that?
Only if they have not been transformed. If they've not been transformed, then I would say they're wrong. If they've been transformed, they've had a born again experience.
Okay, so now that third person, not you, we're not talking about you. We're talking about that other person.
Right, I got you.
How do we determine whether they had a true one or a false one?
Well, because however they were before, let's say they were angry, jealous, hateful, vengeful, greedy, and then all of a sudden they're kind and gentle, full of good fruit.
Let's say that happened with them. All of a sudden they're all those good things.
Right. And let me say this. They have a clear conscience.
Okay.
So their sin.
Well, we can't look into their conscience. We can just go by what they report.
But you can you know when people are guilty. I know you're guilty. And so when people have a clear conscience, there's a peace about them.
Okay, now listen closely to my question. Someone claims, they utter with their mouth that they've had a true born again experience, and you and I see that they no longer swear, they no longer steal, they no longer drink. Everything that we can't go inside to know their heart, but externally, they look like a new creation. Now, here's my question. Is it possible that God had nothing to do with it?
Not if they have the fruits of the Spirit.
So you're saying it's possible that God had nothing to do with it?
No. I'm saying if they have the fruits of the Spirit, then God would be involved.
Well, I know, but what you're saying, Kenny, what you're saying is if God did it, then it's true, and if God didn't do it, then it's not true. But I'm asking from a third party.
I'm saying no. Listen, if there's no manifestation of righteousness, if there's no verification that the born again experience, the new birth has taken place, there will be no manifestation of that. The manifestation is a new heart.
Okay, but you and I can't see his heart.
A new disposition. Well, sure you can. You can see it in his actions. You can see it in the way he deals.
Yes, and that's what we saw. His actions are completely changed.
Now, Doug, have you told me you have never run into
Kenny? His actions have not changed. I mean, his actions have completely changed. We can't see into his heart. So I'll ask you again, can someone claim with their mouth that they've had a true born-again experience? Their actions have changed that you and I can see. We can't see into their heart, but we can see their external actions. We see it. Now, here's my question. Is it possible that God had nothing to do with it?
No way. Because you can't change yourself. You just can't change yourself. You don't have the ability to change yourself.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure, Doug, if you did have the ability, you would make yourself a nicer person.
So you don't think you could be fooled?
Absolutely not.
About this?
Absolutely no way. If you could have seen me before, you'd probably be having a different conversation. Have you never met anybody, Doug, that's been transformed by the power of God? Have you never met a born again person?
I would say no.
You were in church, certainly you saw.
But I do. I have seen people change.
What about your wife? What's her testimony? I mean, what was her history?
My wife has been pure as white as snow since she was born. But there's a guy named Myth Vision. Do you know Derek? Do you know Derek from Myth Vision?
What's his name?
Derek from Myth Vision. He used to be a drug addict. Heroin, I think. His life radically changed. He's not taken drugs. I don't know for how many years, but he used to be heroin's a pretty bad drug. He did it without Jesus.
Well, again, you're talking about external things, right?
Well, that's what you said. We can see the change, the born again through the external.
I'm talking about disposition, Doug. I'm talking about how you deal with folks, how you go about your life, how the gentleness, the meekness, the temperance, the long suffering, the kindness, the things that the human spirit does not produce. These things are only the fruits of the Spirit of God.
But how do you and I know what the fruits of the Spirit are? We have to see it externally. And I'm saying there's people on this planet who have completely changed the external that you and I could see and verify, and yet they claim it has nothing to do with God. They're not Christians.
Well, again, you are looking at the external
right.
That people quit doing.
Right.
That's not just that. Now, when I was born again, the alcohol.
Thanks, James Nestler. No true born again man fallacy. Yeah, I'm just curious to see if Kenny had the capacity to even imagine these things. And I'm to the conclusion that he can't. Like, I'm becoming convinced that he cannot do it. It's not just a matter of trying to use the right words and use the right analogies. It's like I'm asking someone without legs to walk, and he can't. It's amazing. It's actually fascinating to see it. It boggles my mind. It really does. Ray, I'm not convinced that he won't. I'm thinking that he can't. Am I right, Franklin? I'm just saying that Kenny he cannot imagine what I'm asking him to imagine, that he's incapable.
I'm not going to disagree with you, Doug.
I don't think it's a stubbornness. I actually don't think it's stubbornness. I just think he lacks the mental ability.
Yeah, I think the only thing I started enjoying about that conversation between you two was your exasperation and frustration with his answers. I mean, obviously I'm a Christian, but I don't know how you. I mean, it's a personal. I mean, you're kind of arguing the subjective versus the objective at that point, I think, and it's just. I don't know what.
Would you give him your P.O. box?
No, probably not.
Okay, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I had a chance. Well, I listened to some of what you've done today, and there was a couple things where, like, I don't know who it was you were talking to, the guy that was on the couch, and you said something that kind of piqued my interest and kind of brought up some questions.
Oh, John.
Is that with the headphones on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't able to even get all of that conversation, but it got me thinking because you said to him, and this may tie into part of what you were talking about with Kenny there too, or at least early on. Said, because when you just talked to him about him being when he revealed he was a universalist, you said, well, why do you worry about what I do, in regards to deconverting Christians? And I got to thinking about universalism and atheism do share that sort of inevitability. If they're both true, then it's sort of like pointless arguing. So I'm curious why in other words, what if I asked you that question, how would you answer that?
Ask me what exactly?
So
what's the point of my channel?
So pretty much, yeah. What's the point of, because it sounds like you have a preference. I don't know how strong the desire is. I know you enjoy arguing and stuff, and you said that's your primary motivation for your channel.
Yeah.
So I know that's the primary answer, but in regards that, I do think you enjoy the idea of deconverting a Christian, and so.
I don't know. I think I used to, but it's starting to get old for me. Like the longer I do this. Like I would get a dopamine rush from someone came in and said, Doug, you're one of the main reasons why I love Christianity. And I kind of like, but nowadays it's like, I realize that, number one, there's so many reasons why people leave that if it is, I really doubt that it's primarily me, number one. And number two, that might not be a good thing for their life, at least in the short term. Long term, I'm pretty convinced it is. And so I realized that there's going to be a lot of suffering happening in the next 6 to 12 months. So that's not that big of a deal.
So because I got to thinking about, the difference between, so for me, I would say, I would prefer my neighbor be a Christian. And so just, if I knew nothing else about him, basically. Do you have a preference to that point? Do you think atheism or Christianity?
Okay, I want to be honest with you, Franklin. You live at a certain place. Would you rather have me move in next door or Kenny?
Oh, well, I think either one of you would be fine, if I'm being honest, because I don't worry about Kenny being a bad guy. I don't worry about you. As much as I can know either of you two guys, but I would just say, and remember, my point was I didn't know anything about these.
Isn't Kenny more likely to have like a spare tire lying in his front yard?
I think if I wanted to avoid being annoyed, I probably would prefer you being my neighbor.
Yeah. See, so it's not so much being an atheist or a Christian. It's just whether your neighbor is not crazy and if you need a hand once in a while that they'll help you. That's the thing. Like I don't care if my neighbor is a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, whatever. I just don't want them nuts. I don't want them crazy, and I don't want them unpredictable, and I want them to be responsible. That's why homeowners associations and gated communities are great.
Now, well, I get that. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, my thought, you would ask why Christianity and this sort of thing. I think so if a neighbor is Christian, I would be slightly more confident that they have a motivation, an internal motivation to be a better person, which would work in concordance with the external law. So it's like John Adams when he said that the Constitution that they created was wholly inadequate for a non-religious people. And I think and I think we see this in our culture. So the more, because you've mentioned this, we're becoming more and more secular. And I think that it's not a coincidence that the government's growing in response to that, because anytime you take that internal check away from people, and I would argue Christianity brings that to individuals, you have more immoral people. And I would offer your channel evidence, Exhibit A from your channel when you did the abortion thing, and 45%, I think that was the total, said abortion anytime, doesn't matter. I think that's an immoral stance. And a secular
But it's not that bad, though, is it?
Which part? The 45% or
what they
agreed to?
What they agreed to, like killing the unborn. Like, I can think of so many worse things in life than killing the unborn. For example, killing you is 1,000 times more worse than killing the unborn. You can't disagree with that, because you are a young father, right?
Yeah.
You pay taxes, right?
Yeah.
You're a productive member of society. You're not a criminal. I tell you, it's not even close. I'd kill 10,000 unborn before I would kill you.
Well, see, now I wouldn't go that far with you.
100,000.
I get your point. I'm not arguing your point. And so what I'm saying, though, the open-endedness of this idea is that, we can, abortion is fine for any reason at any time. That open-ended way of looking at it lacks a moral stance that you just made, in my opinion, because you kind of weighed, this idea of humanity in the balance, and you've come to what you feel is the most reasonable position. I would say that 45%, when they say it doesn't matter, well, I don't know that they're weighing anything at that point. And
but that's not. I agree with you, but that's not an issue between believing in God or not. That's just an issue of being stupid or smart. And you're going to have stupid Christians and stupid atheists. You're going to have smart atheists and smart Christians. The people who don't weigh the pros and cons are just stupid.
Yeah, I agree with that. But the pros and cons, believing in God provides the internal motivation to weigh the balances, or it provides the criteria, the proper criteria when you do weigh. Because truthfully, if somebody is, because as a Christian, you have to, if you're operating as a proper Christian, your goal is to treat everyone as yourself.
Right.
And as a atheist, there's really no obligation to that, other than,
okay, hang on. This is good. I like where this is going. You said that the goal is to treat your neighbor like yourself, love your neighbor, love the Lord your God, the two greatest commandments. Why do you love your neighbor? Is it just because God said so? That you should?
No, I think part of that would be, I think the Bible's expressing something that's already internally there. And so that may be what you're going after, I'm not sure. But so I do have that internal drive that's there to not harm my neighbor. But I don't think that, I could justify what harm would be. And we see this in our society. We could say,
I want to focus in on what you just said. So if you have that internally in you, let's say Christianity is true, then I have it too, right?
Yeah, you do.
So with the belief in Jesus, the belief that Christianity is true, the following, whatever, of the certain creeds is irrelevant. I have it.
No,
I have it in me.
disagree.
I have it in me. You have it in me. When it comes to morality, so you don't need to believe Jesus Christ rose from the dead in order to know that it's bad to knock someone over, like an old lady on the street. Like, so why do you need Christianity for that?
Well, I mean, theoretically, you don't need Christianity for that. But the reason why it actually is an active force is because the concept is that Christ came into the world. God gives, so there's a purpose for everything. So in other words, so what you guys do is like, if you erase Christianity as a concept from your motivation and how you interact with the world, the default is secular humanism, which is basically, I can do for the most part what I want as long as it's utilitarianly convenient for me. So your point would be, you would say, well, I could still be moral because a moral society is best for me. But what about the person that says the moral society isn't best for them? So if they said, well, let's say you got Elon Musk versus Bill Gates, and one says we need to lower the population, the other one says no, we should increase the population.
Right. What
if somebody said, well, I agree with Elon Musk, so raping is fine because I could spread my seed around. Evolutionarily speaking, there's no moral thing wrong with that. The only thing you have is the external law, which basically is
there's so many issues here now. So let's say, I like your example though of Elon Musk and Bill Gates, because they do say that. They do say there's opposite problems. So what do you do in that situation? You talk about it, you debate it, you look at the pros and cons, you think about it, and you say, okay, who's right here? Where's the net benefit? Is the net benefit to increase the population or decrease it? So you think about it and you reason through it. Now, you will have the same disagreements. Like, let's say you tell me, well, Doug, you should become a Christian because then you have this moral impetus or passion or desire to do what's right. And I'll say, well, I disagree. And then what happens? We just separate paths and we go our separate ways? Or we reason about it and talk about it? And why do we think this is true in the first place? And so you're stuck with the same issues. Like any moral act that you say is moral and I say is immoral, you do not know the mind of God. I could be right, and that what I think is immoral or moral is more in line with God than what you think. Right?
Yeah, theoretically.
So between us two humans, we have to reason through it, think through it, look at the context, look at the pros and cons. You would say, well, you would also need to know the nature of God, what he would or would not do. But even then, God is mysterious and does things for morally sufficient reasons. So you're still left with reasoning through morality. And I'm just saying, you don't need God to do that. You cut out the middleman. You cut out whatever man. We're still left fending for ourselves.
Yeah, I agree that you don't necessarily need God. But when you talk about in terms of reasoning, what I would say to that point is when you reason, you're dealing with your experience, and you're dealing with your experience in regards to the world.
Right.
And I would say that what the experience shows me is that the atheist secular side of the world right now is crazy and insane.
Some of them. Would you say would you say my moral some of my morality and so forth? Do you think I'm crazy and nuts?
No. This is why I'm talking to you on that level, because this is where I think you actually act like a Christian, because the postmodernist sort of this idea that there is, so you talked about it in terms like as if there's a shared moral goal, and I'm saying your side is basically saying my truth, your truth. And I don't know that those things can even be in the same realm. One has to be true. Either there is a shared moral goal, forget whether it's God or not, but we have to at least agree, because you said, even though you're the atheist, on a certain point, you could be more in line with what God's will is than I could. And I agree with that. But in that implies the idea that there is a perfect good that we're trying to attain. Your side is basically saying there's no such thing. So I agree with you, but I don't think you agree with your side. I guess that's
I'm not a tribalist when it comes to atheism. Like
well, it makes it easier to argue.
And I'm not so sure like what you're seeing of atheists. Like, I don't even think we're talking about Christianity versus secularism right now. We're talking about conservative versus liberal.
Okay.
Yeah.
True.
And
True.
and I'm a conservative, and so this is why you and I get along well, probably, even though we have different worldviews metaphysically. And I do agree that there's a lot of postmodern thinkers out there. A lot of them happen to be atheists, but I'm not even so sure at what percentage. Like what you read on Twitter and what you see on YouTube, how representative is that of all atheists? I don't know, but I hope that, like, and the thing is, when it comes to truth, like Kenny and I were talking about this. To him, there's only one truth, and it's absolute. But we know that there are, like, you have completely no hair on your head. That's true for you. It's not true for me. So in that sense, the true for you, true for me is not completely terrible and bunk. That does apply sometimes. It's true that you're a certain height, and it's true that I'm not exactly your height, probably. And so there's many examples of relative truth, and I think there's examples of absolute truth, that we exist, that I'm not omniscient. These are absolute truths.
Yeah, no, and sure, but I think and to your point, I think any truth over exaggerated can also, become a lie, but I think you have to at least have this you have to come to terms that you're at least in the same ballpark. And if you're saying, because like when me and you were, what you just said, that was where our common ground was. No matter where we think the origin source is, there is some sort of source of whether you call it truth or some sort of moral center. The secular fruit right now, for a lot of people, is that everybody can just basically be have their own truth, and it's so confusing to the point where, I mean, that it's dealing with the physical now.
Yeah.
People a person has a penis and they go, well, no, I'm actually a woman. It's like, well, is that science? I mean, at some point,
no, we're agreed here. Like, to me, that's nonsense. And if you're a man with a penis and say that you can get pregnant, I mean, you're nuts. You're crazy. You're not reflecting reality. Like, you may be mentally ill. I get that. And a lot of atheists hate me for even saying stuff like that. You can't say anything negative about trans.
Well, why do they hate that, Doug? That's kind of my
because
point.
Their moral intuition is more the touchy-feely. Like, you and I are more not that way. And so,
and yet when I'm sorry to interrupt, but and yet when I argue with atheists, they often come toward me as if they're the ones that are reasonable, and I'm just this, superstitious idiot. And I'm like, you guys aren't really being
there's a lot more,
or whatever you call that.
There's a lot more atheists than you think. I think would align with you and me on a lot of these issues. You just don't hear them. Like, they are like, I really can't be canceled, but a lot of atheist YouTubers can, and they depend on their YouTube revenue for feeding their families. So they have to be more careful than me. So I can just come out and say, no, trans women are not real women, full stop. And I don't care if that makes you cry or not. They're not.
Right.
The woman is tied to biology. It's an adult female, and by you just identifying doesn't make it so. No more than you identifying as a cat makes you a cat. So, but I would still say that you should never ever hurt a trans person. Never, like, kill them and violence. And you would agree with that, and Christians agree with that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So,
well, and that also goes to the point, what happens is that side will often slander the other side with something and make accusations as if we don't think that what you exactly just said is true. Like, we do want to harm somebody because we look down on, I don't look down. I mean, I look down on a lot of people for a lot of reasons. I look down on myself too. It's like, at some point you got to be,
but I want to get back to
introspective. That was the word.
I want to get it back to your main point that you brought up, and that is, number one, you mentioned motivation. I do agree with you that some people need this concept of a deity to be motivated to do the right thing, either through fear or love. Those are two main emotions. So I agree with you there, but I just think it's better to do it without being watched, like doing the right thing. Like if I was on a stranded island and I wanted coitus and it was just me and a woman, and she said, no, I don't want to have coitus with you. Nobody's watching. Let's say I'm way bigger than her. I could force myself on her, but I would still think whether a God exists or not, I don't need a God watching me to do the right thing and say, okay, I won't, right? Because I'm still watching myself, right? And I have to live with myself. So I would encourage people that do the right thing even when nobody's watching you. And then on the second...
Can I throw a thought experiment at you?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say God revealed himself, came down, was sitting at on an amazing throne, had angels that were powerful and could go everywhere. Say he's sitting over in wherever, Israel or whatever. And everybody knew if you misbehaved, you might get a knock on your door from one of these powerful angels. And God knows everything that's going on. Let's just say, because we know where God is and we know what's going on. This is the paradigm we're in. What expectation do you have in regards to the behavior of the people in the world?
It would improve
when that happens.
It would improve. I don't deny that.
Okay, and then so would you imagine? But how many of those people would actually be good people?
I mean, with those angels guarding,
yeah,
and judging right away.
Or could you tell how many were good?
Well, through their behaviors. Like let's take rape, for example. And every time someone raped, a angel came and gave them severe pain right there, right then. Yes, I would say rapes would go down 99%, and if not 100.
But how many people would be running around with rape in their heart?
See, this is a fundamental disagreement. I could care less if they had rape in their heart. Now, this might shock you, but to me, actions speak louder than heart. So if someone hates me, I'd rather live next to you. Let's pretend you hate me, you hate my guts, but you never, ever act upon it. I'd rather, in fact, you do the opposite. You are kind to me, great neighbor, but you sincerely hate my guts. I'd rather live next to you than someone who loves me and either through just being stupid or accidental or causing me harm than someone who loves me and causes me harm. Now, for a lot of people, they can't stand that, but I'm okay with it. I don't care if people have evil thoughts about me and hate my guts as long as they treat me well. And people will say that, Doug, you can't expect that. People will act upon what they believe and what's inside them. I say, no, yes and no. Yes, that happens, but you and I have lusted over other women. I've got to talk quietly because our wives might be hearing. You and I have had attraction, but guess what? I bet you've never cheated on your wife, and I haven't mine. We do not act upon our innate desires, always. So, yeah, I don't care if people have rape in their hearts as long as they don't rape.
No, and to that point, I agree. And so the thought experiment in my mind is just to sort of relay why I kind of imagine, so in regards to why things happen or in the world, and why God does nothing about it, or why we're left in ignorance. That's the way I can see, because you have to rationalize this stuff. It's not, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of this. This is something you dealt with when you deconverted or whatever you want to call it. Because the whole point is, like, why does God allow evil to happen, and why are we left in ignorance about what his motives are if he exists? So that's the only reason what I was getting to is that that's kind of the way I can rationalize my thoughts on what do you call that? What God's purpose is for bad things. You got a term for that? I forget.
Morally sufficient reasons.
Morally sufficient. There you go.
Yeah. I honestly wish that thought experiment you brought up earlier was true. That there was angels standing guard, and when bad things, horrible things, let's say gratuitous things happen, that you would get immediately punished from an all just good creator God who knows the context, knows the situation, knows it wasn't an accident, knows the intent. And then, because then at least I know this God, A, is real, and number two, that suffering will go down. But the problem is,
Yeah.
you have this concept of a God who will do the justice at the end of the age. You got to wait for it to happen. Like, well, except for Ananias and Sapphira, like, what? Bring back those days. Like, if a politician is corrupt, drop dead right there. God kills him right on the spot if he embezzles money from the government treasury. Like, hey, that God would have my vote. But this God,
Yeah, no, I agree.
This God right now basically is relying on Christians like you to execute the justice through voting in our country. And I mean, and you're just a man and you don't know everything. And is God really saying this or not? And so the ontology is irrelevant. Like you mentioned the ontology before, the foundation, something really being right or really being wrong. But to me, that's useless if we can't figure out what exactly it is.
Well, I think the ontology is important because it actually, so you said you don't care about the heart, but I think out of the heart, the mouth speaks. I think that is true, even though it's in the Bible, that's true. So
it can, but I think you agree with me that not always. Like I can,
oh, for sure,
I can have the darkest heart on the planet, and I can play the part of the smooth talking, loving, touchy feely, like and I could convince people. They're called actors, right? Yeah. So,
and I agree with you. I would rather have that thought experiment than what we have now. And you've never asked me this question, but I'll give you the answer. I would choose poof over drown. My thought is that, but see, nonetheless, we're left with what we're left with. This is where we both are. You've chosen the idea that there's birth pangs, but no birth, which is what's to come, the judgment and the new heaven and new earth. Whereas I say, no, birth pangs equal a birth that's coming. We're just in the midst of the birth pangs. So for me, I'm saying, well, that's what, I have two choices. I can go, well, this is just the birth pangs and nothing, or the birth. Now, it doesn't, whether what I believe is irrelevant to what's true or not, granted, but there are sufficient reasons to believe that birth pangs equal birth.
I'm not exactly sure if I'm following you on why you're bringing up birth pains. Like, what's the birth pains represent, and what's the birth represent?
The trouble and turmoil that we have on this planet. So, if the thought experiment were true, you said that you would expect all that, or a great deal of that, to go away, and I agree.
Yeah.
So right now, because it's not true, and if God exists, He's left us in this situation where we've got a lot of stuff that me and you would agree we would rather not have.
Yeah.
I'm saying, yeah, but if he does have a morally sufficient reason and he's going to make things better in the end, I prefer that over all the trouble and nothing.
I know, but isn't that convenient? Like, I just view that as a convenient cop-out. It's like, yeah, Doug, I get your point. Yeah, it would work better, but, God has reasons. He's, and it's coming, just wait. But, Christians been saying that for 2,000 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, the truth is that there are actually... to that point, and that's why I said it doesn't matter what I believe if it's not true, but there are sufficient reasons to believe it is true. So it's not just pie in the sky.
Sufficient
either.
For you,
So
maybe, but not for me, right? Or do you think they're sufficient for me?
Obviously, if it were sufficient for you, you'd be a Christian.
Yeah. Or at least I believe it's true.
Well, yeah.
But I still don't get how you... because a book or tradition says that a man rose from the dead, why you believe it?
Because it answers. Okay, so it would be the same reason why I don't think Flying Man is a great analogy, although I get what you're doing with it. It's because Flying Man doesn't answer the pertinent question that all humans ask, whereas Jesus does. And so if you remember when I was on with you, I don't know if it was the last time, but I brought up a C.S. Lewis quote where he said, we thirst and there's drink, and we hunger and there's food. We got all these religions out there because people
try to answer that question,
looking for God, and you're like, well, God doesn't exist. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. So we see birth pangs and there's birth. We see a hunger for God, then there's God. And then there's, so it's it may be a philosophical answer, but it's a better answer than what your side offers.
But you agree,
And
like frankly, you're a smart guy. You agree that false religion can answer questions of why we exist and why things are where they came from, and still be false, right?
yes, I agree with that.
So Christianity could be one of those false religions that answers these big,
Of course it could.
big questions. So then the question is like, what is this sufficient evidence that you're seeing? It can't be that just that it answers the big questions.
No, I mean, and it becomes difficult because this sort of argumentation, all you have to do is kind of find a place of doubt, you know? And so it's not, you're wanting me to give you that grand piece of evidence that you know very well.
Like you could mention the eyewitness accounts, but you know what I'm going to say there. You could mention martyrdom, you know what I'm going to say there. You could mention prophecy. That prophecy is probably the best you could go, but you probably know what I'm going to say with that. You can make these prophecies so much better so quickly, and even the resurrection wasn't prophesied in the Old Testament. I mean, you really don't have anything. The only thing that you have is maybe, the Kennys of the world will say, well, I experienced something. But even then, you can look to other religions that experience things based on some false attribution, and you're left to square one.
Yeah. I would, okay, let's throw a piece of historical evidence. So Tacitus, and I'm throwing this at you. I'm sure you have to have an answer for it because you have an answer for everything. But so my thinking on this is, if you ask like, why should lean toward or lean against, right? So Tacitus, what he proves is that, relatively speaking, contemporarily, Christianity flourished in Rome in a short time from the whatever event took place in Judea. So atheists will say extraordinary claim requires extraordinary evidence. I wouldn't necessarily say this is extraordinary evidence, but the fact that a new religion popped up in Rome, of all places, is sort of extraordinary. And in that quick of time period, it would seem to have to indicate some extraordinary event took place.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've heard Bart Ehrman tackle this argument. And basically, he says, if one person in their lifetime talks to another one person and converts them, it's just that type of growth. You're going to have false religions growing, and that's to be expected. And you and I both know that we have seen in history false religions grow a lot in a short time. So then the question is, well, but did they grow this much, and was it this short of a time? And this becomes like such a very subjective thing. Like, is it 1 million in the first 50 years, or does it have to be 2 million in the next 100? Like, what is real? How can the growth be an indicator of truth? It can't, because people are stupid.
Oh, sure it can. It doesn't. It doesn't mean that it's true.
Right.
To your point, I'm not saying that, but I just mean it in terms of the way that you usually do evaluation. You say lean toward or lean against. And I don't know what took place. It could have been a grand, some sort of grand conspiracy and trick that was played on people, but something had to have taken place
in the world. Well, no, but hang on. I want to put a nail in the coffin of this growth argument. True or false? Islam is growing faster than Christianity today.
True.
Does that true or false? That means it's more likely Islam is true.
False.
There you go. Now just apply that to first century Palestine and Christianity, and you're done.
No, because I know why Muslims are growing. It's through the birth rate. So I've got an answer for it. Where I don't have.
You don't think that happened with Christianity? You don't think, maybe not the first generation Christians, but I think you would admit the first generation Christians, there was very few of them. You don't think second, third, fourth, fifth generation Christians did the same reason? That Christian parents gave birth to kids that became Christians?
Well, that's why I brought up Tacitus, because you don't have generations. I mean, Nero was contemporary to Paul, and Tacitus was born when Nero was.
Yeah, but people like Bart Ehrman would say that the number of Christians was very low back then. He would deny the premise that you had this explosive growth, like any more than an average cult religion, and that the numbers were that big.
Okay. I don't know if he would deny that. If he does, I would disagree with him, because
the Christianity really only took off in like the 4th century, when it became the official religion of Rome. That's when it really grew.
So why? Well, it became the official religion of Rome because it was already popular at that point.
No, it's because of a woman. It was because of a woman. It was the PineCreek theorem. Constantine's wife was a Christian. She said, "You either have sex with me, and become a Christian, or you don't get sex with me." And he goes, "Okay, I love the coitus. I'm a Christian. I am."
Well, maybe he was a drunk and he beat her too. And
actually, what I just said, I'm not a historian, but I actually think there's historical evidence that what I just said is true. I think it was his wife that convinced him. One of his wives.
Well, I mean, Islam has that too.
Yeah.
So, to your point about Muhammad, but I'm not worried about Constantine, though. I'm not pinning my faith at all on Constantine. I didn't bring him up. You did.
Yeah. Anyhow, it was good talking to you. I always enjoy it.
Yeah, man.
Take care.
All right. See you, man.
I didn't want to go down the whole list of reasons, sufficient reasons. I think I'm going to end it there. Franklin's a nice guy, and we had a nice cordial conversation. Speaking of which, Cordial Curiosity, go check out his channel. Anthony Magnabosco, go check out his channel. I love Anthony Magnabosco. I love it when he comes to poker nights, and you will love his channel if you go check out. I first got my start in how to interact with people in a better way by watching him. But he's forsook me. He's not like God. He's just a mere man who has said, "I wash my hands of Doug's poker nights." I'm just giving him a hard time. And now 3 people went on. But I think I need to end it here. I will focus on the chat a bit. Sorry, guys. Come sooner next time. If she were Jewish, would Constantine have gotten circumcised according to PineCreek theory? Oh. The PineCreek theorem is rock solid when someone's willing to cut off a piece of their... But then you can't have coitus for a while. How many days does it take to heal from that? Like, think about it. If that's not a defeater for Judaism and Christianity, I don't know what is. Well, definitely Judaism. Snip, snip of your tip for God? Really, really? Come on. I don't know why I'm doubling up everything. And don't Muslims have that for women too? Snip, snip. Ugh. Yeah. Don't even think about that. Thanks, Ray. Putting bad thoughts in my head. It amazes me how many Christians today have their boys circumcised out of this tradition. I never know when sooner is, mate. How about I arrive on Whereby an hour earlier next week? I'm usually on around noon to 1 Western Pacific time on Thursdays. So there's your hint. I've already been on, Lena, for like almost 3 hours. If you don't like it, if you don't like the fact that you couldn't come on and talk with me, guess what? No refunds. Poof.